moment of sheer drama. The first American Pope in history steps onto the balcony overlooking St. Peter's Square.
Cardinale Prevost.
He's 69-year-old Cardinal Robert Prevost of Chicago.
India and Pakistan are accusing each other of violating a ceasefire deal, just hours after the nuclear-armed neighbors agreed to end the most serious military confrontation in decades. There were celebrations in Pakistan's capital Islamabad after the truce was announced. It follows days of escalating cross-border missile and drone attacks. The military confrontation was triggered by a militant attack on Indian-administered Kashmir last month that killed 26 people.
Something is happening in the UK. In the midst of one of the darkest times in recent history, where we have seemingly infinite problems, the economy is crumbling, the government is possibly the most hostile it has ever been to Christianity in its history, there's massive Islamic immigration that threatens our very national survival, and even church leaders are staying quiet as Christians are arrested in silent prayer. There is finally, by the grace of God, a sign of hope. People have been talking about this in whispers for some time. There's been anecdotal reports. But now it seems as if there is finally hard evidence of what a lot of those people have sensed. And people are asking the question, could this be the beginnings of a revival?
Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle. It's Sunday. It is also Mother's Day, May 11th here in the United States. Now I know that in the UK you guys have different Mother's Days than we do, but here it's our Mother's Day in the United States. So happy Mother's Day to our mom and to all of the moms out there. I have no problem celebrating Mother's Day. I'm not one of those people that says, you know, it's some sort of just commercial holiday that ought to be swept under the rug. If you're going to celebrate moms, like, why not? It seems like a great idea to me. So I think that there can't be enough applause out there for moms and what they do and rearing up society. There's some moms out there that are not so great. But I would say by and large, most moms have been given an amazing anointing. And I think a lot of you guys out there today are missing your moms, it makes a day like today kind of difficult. So we just pray for you guys. But for those of you out there, that are mothers currently, and you have children or whether they've passed away or whatever, happy Mother's Day to you. We very, very much love and applaud our moms out there. So we are in the basement. I don't know if you saw my note I had left in the chat. I said, hey guys, we're going to be a little bit late because I'm trying to set up the show to be done outside because it's so glorious. And so finally we had to pack it in and bring it back into the basement because of technical difficulties. And I'm sorry that we're late. It's just Lee and I, we love coming to you guys live 4 or 5 days a week, but being in the basement for 3 hours at a time on those days is a little bit, dreary. So we had wanted, it's so pretty outside, and it was the first time we were going to be able to start streaming live outside, and technical difficulties said, Michelle, it's not happening today. So it was very difficult for me to give up and finally just say, okay, fine, we have to go back into the basement. But I hope that you guys are going to enjoy the beautiful day outside. Lee and I will get to it a little bit later after the show. We'll get to enjoy it. And we got to enjoy it for the 40 minutes that we were out there trying to figure out the tech. So I wish I had been able to mentally enjoy the being out there instead of the stress from the tech. But here's the deal, guys. I have a confession to make. I think this is good. It's cleansing for, everybody looks at Leah and I, and you guys have, you guys are so amazing. You have no problems. Everything is perfect. You guys never make any mistakes. That's not true. That's so patently false. I'm not the best human in the world to be around when we have technical difficulties. And Leah sits there and she just bows her head and prays for me the whole time. So Leah gets giant kudos.
I told her that when you get triggered by things, They will keep happening.
She said, Michelle, we're going to keep going. I was 30 minutes early today, guys.
Until
30 minutes early.
And that is a lessons to learn. If you have put your life into emotion to where you're trying to not have things happen to you that will trigger you.
Yeah.
You can live that way. But the problem is you don't leave room for the Holy Spirit to heal why you are triggered. And I have lived that way for fear. And so I would absolutely love to be a gazillionaire, or no, just a 100,000-aire. That'd probably be good. And then most of my fears would instantly disappear.
Mine wouldn't. You know why? Because you know how you aptly tell me that a lot of the studios, like Tim Pool, and he's got like buku bucks, and he has streaming issues all the time.
Oh no, Lynette does. So like, I don't have your issues.
My issues aren't going to be solved with money.
I didn't ask you. I'm not trying to solve yours. I'm trying to. I'm untriggering myself. Mine would be untriggerable if I just had instant cha-ching. But here's the thing. That's not the life of faith. That's not the life of faith that God's had us. And so people be in the world, but not of the world. The world has its way of dealing with situations and problems.
Yeah.
The Bible says to walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. And we go through tests and we go through trials, and they are designed to increase patience, brotherly kindness, perseverance, long suffering, because in that way you are storing up treasures in heaven. Right. If you're constantly trying to get those roadblocks out of the way and just live a kind of a seamless life without any problems, you're not, number one, entering into the enemy's territory, and you're not leaving room for God to move and to walk in that realm of faith.
That's good. So
today I'm very excited about walking in a realm of faith in the UK, Christianity on the rise. And I think that you're seeing it as a result of people who have been suffering, who have undergone great persecution by their government. It's the most harsh government towards Christianity that you've ever seen. I'm very excited that now you can talk about men and women, marriage needs between man and woman, because when we first started our show, the sentiment in the UK was shocking if you weren't for gay marriage.
Yeah.
But because of the radical left push, what it has done, it's woken people up, and it said, well, maybe we shouldn't have made these concessions. Maybe we should have maybe gay marriage shouldn't be a thing. Maybe homosexuality is actually sinful and harmful to society at large. And trying to get back to more conservative Christian values to combat, Islamification and even anti-free speech. You can't even pray in front of an abortion clinic. So I'm very excited about that. We do have some other news to cover, which there is a new pope.
The Pope.
And people are saying that he is a woke pope in that he has come out against J.D. Vance. And he tweeted out, because he tweets, and he tweeted out against Trump. He wanted Trump to have open borders. And the only senator he tweeted out positively was Senator Chris Murphy. So he's a Democrat. Interestingly enough, his brother is a pro-Trump supporter, but his brother is also a pro-brother supporter. So like, he's so excited that his brother's Pope. So he doesn't really have a problem with his brother being the woke Pope.
So his brother, who is a Trump supporter, and he are on good terms.
Very good terms. He has nothing but praise for his brother.
Okay.
Nothing. And he actually, what better than to have, he's on Chris Cuomo. Cuomo's got his brother that he talks about. So it's this guy's little brother. And even though he's 69, the Pope is 69. He says that his brother, he's got all kinds of stories to tell. He says that they knew that his brother was going to be a priest from the time he was 5. And they would always joke that he would be Pope one day.
No way. Well, do you think that that's kind of like, that's a question for those of you that are Catholic. Is that something like that if you have a family member that's going to be a priest? Of course, it seems like you would just joke. If you're going to be a priest, you're going to be a Pope.
I don't know. It's an interesting thing. They said other kids would play at being like cowboys and Indians, and he played at being priest.
That's interesting.
That is very interesting. He does speak several languages fluently.
They all do, man.
Do they?
I feel like they do.
No, I don't know. He's American, first American Pope.
Chicago.
and he speaks fluent Spanish, Italian, and French, and supposedly loves the poor. I get the ick factor from these guys, unless they're super conservative. I get the ick factor. He supposedly was one of Francis's right-hand men.
Yeah.
And I just find it gross.
Yeah. He looks icky.
I feel like I'm not calling it, but I'm going to call it.
Let's see. Sherry says, I'm hearing opposite views about him. Charlie Kirk said he was a registered Republican before he went to Peru. So it's interesting about the temperature.
I saw that too. I saw that
now.
too, where he said that.
Here's the thing. I said this to Leah. I think I even said this on the show the other day. Our friend, very good friend. Well, not very good friend, but like I admire her and love her so much. Candace Keller. You guys we've had her on our show, and she ran for lieutenant governor here in Ohio, and she served in our legislature, and she's super pro-life, super pro-life. She made a post, and I'm not saying that this means that she took a stance, is that she made a post about the Pope, and she said all negative comments will be deleted. And I didn't get a chance to like ask her like what are your thoughts here on this Pope, but I have been seeing a lot of conservatives taking a stance in support of this Pope. I don't know if it's just because he's American or because Trump congratulated him. You know what I mean? Like, I think Trump put this big congratulations. I don't know if Leah has that up for today, but he put a tweet out and was like, congratulations to the new Pope. It's the first American Pope. And so, of course, anytime America does anything the first, Trump is going to pounce on it. Okay. And so that to me.
Well, he is calling AI an existential threat. So he says, in our own day, the church offers everyone the treasury of its social teaching in response to another industrial revolution and to the developments in the fields of artificial intelligence that pose new challenges for the defense of human dignity, justice, and labor. He linked this statement to the legacy of his namesake, Leo the 13th, 1891.
Oh, did he do the new name
workers'
thing?
rights. I don't know.
You know how they always add an extra name?
That. I think I don't know.
No. They always add a name like John, Peter. And what was it? There were several names that they said have never been chosen before.
Workers' rights and the moral dimensions of capitalism.
Oh, Peter's never been chosen, I guess.
So his remarks continued the direction charted by Pope Francis, who warned in his 2024 annual peace message that AI, lacking human values of compassion, mercy, morality, and forgiveness, is too perilous to develop unchecked. So both Pope Francis, I think that they do have to talk about it as from a human standpoint. But when you hear him say things like the worker and labor, he is a communist. There's not much else to it. He's a communist. He's a socialist.
Help me here. And I know that like it's our job to report on the news for you guys. So just set that to the side for a second. The other day we were talking about how when every pope, when they become a pope, they take on a name. Mm-hmm. Okay. Is Leo the name that he took? That's what I want to know. Like, what's the name? Because he's now Pope Leo. What is that? The 19th? What is this? My Roman numerals here. Help me out here. Leah, look over here.
Yeah. Pope the
no, because that was the 14th. Pope Leo the 14th. So was Leo in his name before he became Pope? That's what I want to know. I don't think so. That's what I'm saying. I think Leo is the name that he chose when you're a Pope and you choose your names.
So he's already made history as the first ever American-born Pope. I don't know it, so just somebody put it in the chat. To lead the Roman Catholic Church, but how might he shape the institution? Robert Francis Prevost was elected on Thursday. Maybe that's what he took. Maybe while after a 2-day conclave, while Pope Leo is considered, trying to get this, a centrist. He shares some of his predecessors' views, including those about the environment and outreach to migrants. He is also notable for being the first Augustinian friar to lead the church. The Order of St. Augustine, which dates to 1244, says it has some 2,800 members throughout 47 countries. The 3 core values are truth, unity, and love. And so Leo XIV has been formed on those foundational values. Here's what the Pope Leo has said in the past about a number of issues, from LGBTQ Catholics to climate change. So like his predecessor, Leo opposes the idea of ordaining female deacons. He said something that needs to be said also is that ordaining women, and there's been some women that have said that this, interestingly enough, clericalizing women doesn't necessarily solve the problem. Might create a new problem. At the same time, he touted Francis's efforts to increase women's participation and visibility in the Vatican. While Francis was known for his efforts to make the church more open to members of the LGBTQ plus community, famously asking who am I to judge, Leo may not follow in his footsteps. In a 2012 address, Leo expressed concern that Western culture promotes enormous sympathy for beliefs and practices that are odds with the gospel, specifically referencing abortion, the homosexual lifestyle, and alternative families comprised of same-sex partners and their adopted children. Leo's views on the Vatican's 2023 document, the Fiducia Supplicans, which permits non-liturgical,
oh my gosh.
Liturgical blessings for same-sex couples, among others, are also ambiguous. He did not wholly endorse or reject the document, instead emphasizing the need for National Bishops' Conference to have the authority to interpret such guidance within their local church context.
Okay, pause there. So I got the lowdown on the name. Are you ready? So his name was Cardinal Robert Prevost. Okay. So he chose Leo. Now, it says one of the first acts a new pope is to choose a new name, changing their baptismal one. The decision is part of a long-standing tradition, but it has not always been like that. For more than 500 years, popes used their own names. This then changed to symbolic names in order to simplify their given names or to refer to previous pontiffs. Over the years, popes have often chosen names of their immediate or distant predecessors out of respect or admiration and to signal the desire to follow in their footsteps. For example, Pope Francis said his name honored St. Francis of Assisi and that he was inspired by his Brazilian friend Cardinal Claudio Humes. The new pope has not yet specified why he has decided to be known as Pope Leo XIV. There could be many reasons for it, but the name Leo has been used by many popes over the years. Pope Leo I, also known as Saint Leo the Great, was pontiff between 440 AD and 461 AD. He was the 45th pope in history and became known for his commitment to peace. According to legend, the miraculous apparition of Saints Peter and Paul during the meeting between Pope Leo I, and these are all Catholic things, Attila, the king of the Huns, in 1542 AD, made the latter desist from invading Italy. And so there are several different Leos. The most popular papal names: John, Gregory, Benedict. Leo is fourth. So he's not that original. Clement, Innocent, Pius, Stephen, Boniface, and Urbain. So he decided to not go with John, or Gregory or Benedict, but Leo being number 4 there. I will screen share that for you guys.
So some of the things that he leans in the middle on gender ideology. He says we need to respect the dignity of each person. To talk about matters of identity and sexual orientation with a child who hasn't yet reached a significant age of development will create much confusion. That's good. He is the climate changey kind of person. He's happy about the electric vehicles. He said that humanity's dominion over nature should not be tyrannical. I actually appreciate that, but I don't like where they go with it. He spent most of his career in Peru and holds dual citizenship there. He is a person who likes to help, and he was critical of Trump's partnership with El Salvador to deport the immigrants, and he asked, is your conscience not disturbed? How can you stay quiet? So Laura Loomer calls him a woke Marxist pope, and the right is kind of a little bit up in arms. So I'm going to let's play a couple here. Let's play Matt Walsh. Now, he is just calling out conservatives who are calling him out as woke, because he is noticing a trend of a lot of conservatives who are pro-gay marriage and pro-abortion. And he's like, that's as woke as you can get. So why would you call him woke?
There are some conservative influencers who I've seen sort of condemning this pope as woke, or maybe condemning might be too strong a phrase for some of them, but warning of this pope's wokeness. There are some who have done that, who I know support gay marriage and also support abortion, at least up to a certain point in pregnancy. Those are the two wokest positions you can have. And so you're really not in a spot to call anyone else woke when you are okay with the definitional destruction of the marital institution and the desecration of the sanctity of human life. I mean, if you're on board with that or okay with it, then you are woke on the two most important things: yourself. There's
I like that.
That's true.
All right, let's go to the left here. This is from ET Times News here, explaining. Michelle, can read
Pope Leo the 14th's political posts stir trouble.
you're going to need to read.
Mega's
some of those.
shocked by
need
the
to-
Pope's woke side. I will pause. We will read them. I don't know who this is. Is this him? Rocco Palmo?
No,
Well, then why is this up here?
is it?
I don't know. As Trump and Bukele use Oval to feds illicit deportation of a U.S. resident, once an undocked Salvadorian himself, now DC asks, "Do you not see the suffering? Is your conscience not disturbed?" So
that's him.
Okay.
That's somebody quoting him.
Steve Bannon says worst pick ever. Laura Loomer says, well, yeah, that went too fast for me to even read. Sorry.
This is. Why don't you go back? Read it.
Okay. Laura says, this is the new Pope. His name is Robert Prevost. He's the first American Pope. He is anti-Trump, anti-MAGA, pro-open borders, and a total Marxist like Pope Francis. Catholics don't have anything good to look forward to, just another Marxist Muppet in the Vatican. So here he says, Pope Francis's letter, J.D. Vance's Ordo Amoris, and what the gospel asks of all of us on immigration. So he enters with a shadow of tension as posts surface criticizing J.D. Vance and Trump's immigration stance. He says J.D. Vance is wrong. Jesus doesn't ask us to rank our love for others. I think that we read that one. Mega's rejoicing dims as the newly elected Pope reveals a questionable political tilt in the past, where he says, Cardinal Dolan, why Trump's anti-immigration rhetoric is so problematic. Under the veil of the papal robes emerges a digital trail of dissent towards Vance and immigration policies. Past criticism of Trump administration by the new Pope sparks whispers of a subtle feud from within the Vatican. Pope Leo XIV's retweeted critique of Trump's foreign meeting in Vance sparks moral disagreement. It didn't seem that intense to me, but they're making it out to be like it's a big deal. The ex-post's origin remains unverified, dating back to 2011 of the Pope's possible handle. Laura Loomer, and
Okay,
then
so, all right. So you get the idea there. Meg is not super happy about it. What do you guys think? I don't know. We'll see. You know what's so funny is J.D. Vance became Catholic. You would think that, you know.
So, okay, with the J.D. Vance thing, you married a Hindu. So, I'm not sure how corely felt your beliefs are. If you can marry outside of the Christian faith, I'm going to say they're not. You don't have core beliefs. Christians are not supposed to be unequally yoked. So, I'm just saying.
I think he's Catholic in name only.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is...
Well, let me read a couple of comments here. Let's see. Rich S. That's a new name. Glad you're here. FYI, we Catholics are divided, but hopeful that this will be a very good pope. The problem is MW and some others are using his positions 10 and 20 years ago when he was a priest, bishop, to come after him as pope. That's like coming after a president based on when he started in politics. The top office guides you into taking new positions while not deserting core values. That's interesting. Barry says, the fact that the world has an American Pope, does this mean the new papal mode transportation will be open-backed Cadillac Escalade, or will he still keep the open-backed Range Rover? Rich says likely a Mercedes. Sherry says a secret language formed from English by transferring the initial consonant or consonant cluster of each word to the end of the word and adding a vocalic syllable, usually a. So Pig Latin would be igpe antile. You're killing me, Smalls.
The Pope is a woke gay. But his brother, I have this article from Post Millennial over here. Pope Leo's older brother revealed to be a massive Trump supporter. So, MAGA patriot. The brother of the newly elected Pope Leo XIV has been revealed to be a huge Trump supporter who has praised both Elon Musk and JD Vance. So this is Lou. It's so interesting.
Leo and Lou.
Yeah, Provost. They tried to take President Trump out again. How does this happen? I wonder who is so afraid of him becoming president again that they want him dead. He must know and have some real dirt on some people. Just makes one imagine that they were trying to find when they raided his home for supposedly stolen and classified documents if they're willing to kill for it. Lord, protect him and keep him safe.
James says, Leo looks like a real slick Willie to me. He is for business as usual. It is clear. I do think that, and that's the thing. So, you know, what Rich said, I think you're right. But that doesn't make me happy about it. It's a lot like, RFK Jr. taking the spot at HHS. Mm-hmm. You can have your beliefs, but then once you get into this position, you toe the line for what the current direction that the Catholic Church hierarchy is going in.
So in August, Lou, the brother, says, who I'm voting for and why. That moment when someone says, I can't believe you would vote for Trump. I simply reply, I'm not voting for Trump. I'm voting for the First Amendment and freedom of speech. I'm voting for the Second Amendment and my right to defend my life and my family. I'm voting for the next Supreme Court justices to protect the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I'm voting for the continued growth of my retirement and reduced inflation. I'm voting for the return of our troops from foreign countries and the end of America's involvement in foreign conflicts. I'm voting for the Electoral College and for the republic in which we live. I'm voting for the police to be respected once again and to ensure law and order. I'm tired of all the criminals. Having a revolving door, but being put back on the street. I'm voting for the continued appointment of federal judges who respect the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I'm voting to keep jobs in America. Interestingly enough, is he's voting to secure the borders and have legal immigration, even though his brother's for illegal immigration.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then he says, I'm voting for unborn babies that they have a right to live.
That's awesome.
So if you scroll down, he says, JD was phenomenal debating Tim Walz and the moderators, very knowledgeable and well-spoken. And he's praised Elon Musk there. And he says, you cannot vote to murder children on Tuesday and then sing, oh, how I love Jesus on Sunday. So these guys are like Catholic. Like he's a conservative Catholic. Like he's a conservative Catholic. He's the kind that would, don't read the next one. But yeah, his brother is, super duper. Let's go see him over here just a minute over here with Chris Cuomo. He's very happy.
Hang on a minute. No, not that.
Between the conservative side, the liberal side, kind of bring them together back into focus into what, the church's mission is, how they need to.
Hang on.
No, what? Oh, your brother's Pope. Can you imagine what that would mean to you? What that would mean to your family? The Pope's older brother, Louis Prevost, joins me right now. It is an honor to meet you, sir.
Okay.
Well, it's nice to meet you too, Chris. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Take me through it. Take me through it, brother. As somebody who has a brother who had grand ambitions, how did you learn that your brother had become the most holy position in our religion?
Well, it was like everybody else. We knew when he became a cardinal back in 23 that, okay, he's eligible now to be the Pope. There's the chance he could be elevated to become Pope. Oh my God, my brother. But, your common sense, your reality tells you, well, he's American. He's not very old. The last Pope, Francis, was from South America. He spent a lot of time in South America. Odds are they're not going to go this way, but the chance is there. So when he went into the conclave on Wednesday morning, we just had, watching the TV with where they were showing the Sistine Chapel and the cardinals going in, and we waited, just watching for the smoke. And Wednesday we saw black smoke. I thought, okay, they haven't picked one yet. Thursday morning, I guess they had 2 votes, both times black smoke. And we like, well, if it doesn't happen soon, he's probably not going to get elected, because if it happens quick, they've eliminated. I'm gonna call it politics out of the session, and they're going for what, in my mind, is one of the best candidates. Thursday afternoon, or just before afternoon, there was white smoke. I didn't see it. My wife was monitoring it at her work. She called me and said, "White smoke, white smoke, white smoke." So of course you get excited. I got up, turned the TV on real fast, watched the TV, watched the smoke, and then it became a waiting game. I thought, okay, there's white smoke. How long can it be before they announce who's the new pope? And I'm waiting, getting upset. You're on pins and needles, anxious. The back of my mind said, it could be Rob. He could have been elected. This was a quick vote. And after I don't know how long, it seemed like a really long time before they came out and announced the new pope. To me, it was like 5 or 6 hours. It was probably 20 minutes maybe. I don't know. It just seemed like, will you get out here and tell us who won? Who did you elect?
Who won?
And the cardinal came out and he said, we have a new pope. And then he started to say the name. And I was on the edge of my seat.
That's a
like,
tell right
who's
there,
it gonna be?
right?
And he went, new pope is named. And he went, Roe. And as soon as he said Roe, I knew, it's Rob. And I went nuts. And he finished with Roberto Francisco Prevost. And that sealed it. I about passed out. The excitement was, how do you said it when you opened. Can you imagine waking up and your baby brother is the Pope? Which is pretty much what I did, because, to be honest, I don't know if you can hear it in my throat, and I'm not 100% well. Yesterday I took the day off of work because I really wanted to sleep, rest in. I felt really bad yesterday. So I was in bed. People made comments. What are you doing in bed at 12 o'clock? Well, I didn't feel well. Well, when the news came in, I was up in a shot. And,
I bet.
you know, when they said the name, I was like, thank God I'm sitting down in bed, because I would have fallen over. But
Lewis,
they said
how
the
did
name.
you have an expectation that it could be him? That's the part that I find fascinating. There are a lot of Cardinals. And it wasn't like,
There's
everyone,
a lot of
they were betting on him like a Kentucky Derby. And what is it that you know about your brother that we have to know about why you're so confident that this was the right guy?
Well, 2 things. When we were there in Rome, when he was elevated to cardinal, some of the talk around the Vatican was he's probably like got a 1 in 3 chance of being Pope, the next Pope.
Wow.
When you hear that, you immediately think, wow, yes, wow is right. And then when Pope Francis passed away and you guys started, here's a list of possible candidates, probable people, whatever. Some lists he was on, some he wasn't, but
some he wasn't.
I started reading through their resumes, their little biographies that were posted with each cardinal. And as I went through them, I said, none of these guys have the experience that Rob has. He was a missionary in Peru, spent a lot of time there. He worked with the Peruvian government. He went to Rome as the head of the Augustinian order. As the head of the Augustinian order, he traveled all around the world. Everywhere there's an Augustinian establishment, he went. So he was in all these foreign countries all over the world: China, Korea, Africa.
But what about him personally, Lewis?
Europe.
Beyond the resume, what do you know about him as a man, as a person, that makes you believe he is special?
He is special. We knew when he was 5 or 6 years old, he was something special. We knew when he was that young, he was going to go into the priesthood. You just knew it. We had neighbors and school teachers that said, someday you're going to be Pope. Where do people get that out of nowhere? And here we are, he's Pope. And when it happened, I went, my God, all those people, what did they see? What did we see even that said we knew he was going to be a priest, let alone a Pope? And we used to tease him, you're going to be a Pope, ha, 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 you're not going to be Pope. And he, as kids do. But here we are. He went, became a priest, bishop, archbishop. When he took that step to be cardinal, it was like, oh my God, he's one step away from a possible papacy. And sure enough, he was tight with Francis, because they both were in South America together. And Francis brought him to Rome, made him a cardinal, so he was one of Francis's inside guys. So right amazing. There, okay, he's got the connections. A lot of the cardinals in his position that Francis put him in Rome knew him because they had to work with him.
Doesn't bother anybody.
Lewis, I want to ask you a couple of things. I want to ask you a couple more things. Let me take a quick commercial. Stay with me, and I'll be right back, okay?
Okay.
All right, sure.
He tells a story about his brother, that one day they were on the wrong side of town, and he was 10 and his brother was 7. And they were going to get beat up by these kind of rough kids in the neighborhood. His brother's like, get off his bike. And he's like, let me take care of it. So he goes and talked to him. makes him a servant because that's him. That's what he does. What does that tell me? That he is a good schmoozer. He's a good talker. And I here's the thing. Guys, if you are not a force against the world in a powerful way that is tangible, you're just floating along. Okay. So what am I going to say about this Pope? I'm going to say no compromise. I'm going to say this guy is a place card to keep Catholics complacent and not pushing it back against the system. Don't rock the boat. Continue with things as they are. Say a few things here. Pretend to be for pro-environment. But what you're doing is you're just keeping a system and a group of people who are hungry for actual real social change, for being really culturally relevant in the world, against the shots, against the masks, against the Federal Reserve, against these horrible evils that you and I can see. He doesn't seem to be against those. So
Rich says 69, so that means he'll be Pope for a long time if nothing horrible happens.
Yeah.
It's very interesting when they choose the young popes. You know,
it's like Amy Coney Barrett.
You're stuck with
She's
them.
woke.
You're stuck with them.
So here we have, what if they elected an Irish Pope?
Oh, okay. Hang on. Let me go back to that one. There we go.
I just don't think he's okay.
How's it going? Hey.
Who are you voting for?
What? I can't tell you that.
Cardinal Vincenzo.
What?
He said he'd give me his gelato for the rest of the conclave. You can't vote for him. Why not?
He's trying to bring back fish on Fridays. He loves fish.
What?
Yeah.
I hate fish.
Yeah.
And he's trying to extend Lent by 3 days.
You can't do that.
No. I'm going for Kowalski.
Oh, he's a bit progressive.
He's not progressive.
He's trying to bring in those speedy prayers.
Oh, what are they?
For the 5-second prayers.
That's too short. He's trying to attract the TikTok generation. Okay. He's trying to put soft cushions on the church pews.
But the hard wooden benches, we get rid of them, we're no better than the Protestants. I'm going to go for Cardinal Schroeder. Right?
Schroeder?
Yeah, he wants to buy Manchester United.
The football team?
All the other sovereigns are doing it. It's good for brand image.
Yeah, hold on a second. This is the same guy who wants to excommunicate Henry VIII. Yeah, he's a maniac. He wants to restart that argument with Galileo. I mean, it was settled.
It's done.
Yeah. There's 3 of us, right? Okay. If we come together, our vote is way more powerful. What are you saying? Well, there's never been an Irish Pope. One of us? Yeah, well, I don't see why not. I already have a few ideas we could run on.
Okay. Like what?
Well, increasing the alcohol percentage of the altar wine. Oh. Okay. Yeah. Sunday morning mass starts at 11 a.m., not 8:30.
Oh, it's too early.
It's a weekend day. Come on.
Correct.
The communion wafer. Huh? Yeah. Sure. It could be bread.
Yeah.
Or it could be potato.
You mean
crisps? Exactly. Cheese and onion flavor. Lads, they'll be queuing around that block.
Oh my God. Pope Seamus.
The only thing better than seeing
That was hilarious. Oh my gosh. I'm all down. Listen. Okay. You ain't brought me my cracker in a few days. We've been taking communion every day except for the past couple of days. And Leah's always bringing me my cracker and my grape juice. But what we've been telling you guys is, listen, if you can't find the cracker and you can't find the grape juice, a potato chip and water will work. I'm telling you it will. That may sound blasphemous to some of y'all people, even the cheddar and onion. I don't care. Okay, just do it in the name of Jesus. Get what you got. Now, if you actually have a cracker, then don't eat the potato chip. Get the cracker. Go for the cracker. Okay.
All right. So India and Pakistan, they've been on the brink of war, actually. And things are going pretty crazy between these two side-by-side countries. We covered a little bit last week. Residents and officials in the disputed Kashmir region say there was, and they actually had a ceasefire, and then there was no ceasefire, and then there's a ceasefire. So overnight, they're fighting between Pakistani and India troops, despite a ceasefire to stop a conflict between the two countries. India and Pakistan ceasefire shaken by overnight clashes in Kashmir. That's a headline. A ceasefire to end the conflict between India and Pakistan was shaken by overnight fighting in the disputed Kashmir region. People on both sides of the line of control, which divides the territory, reported heavy exchanges of fire between the Indian and Pakistani troops. The fighting subsided Sunday morning. The two countries agreed to a truce earlier after talks to defuse the most serious military confrontation between them in decades. The escalation in violence began last week after a gun massacre of tourists in Indian-controlled Kashmir. India blamed the attack on Pakistan, which denied any involvement. As part of the ceasefire, the nuclear-armed neighbors agreed to immediately stop all military action on land, in the air, and at sea. But just hours later, they accused each other of repeatedly violating the deal. Drones were spotted Saturday night over India-controlled Kashmir and the western state of Gujarat. Yeah, that's close. According to the Indian officials, in the Poonch region area of the Indian-controlled Kashmir, people said the intense shelling from the past few days has traumatized them. Most people ran as shells were being fired, said a college student. It was completely chaotic. In Pakistan-controlled Kashmir's Neelam Valley, which is 3 kilometers, 2 miles from the line of control, residents said there were exchanges of fire and heavy shelling over after the ceasefire began. We were happy about the announcement, but once again, the situation just feels uncertain. U.S. President Trump was the first to post about the ceasefire deal, announcing it on Truth Social, and then Indian and Pakistan officials confirmed the news shortly after. Pakistan thanked the U.S., especially Trump, several times for facilitating the ceasefire, but then it didn't go as planned.
I remember seeing that last night or first thing this morning, and Trump was like, "It went so great, and it was a long night of talks." And then you sent me this title, and I was like, what happened to the long night of talks, Trump?
Yeah, here's a update here from DW News on the Indian and Pakistan accusing each other of violating their ceasefire deal. I honestly
India
don't
and
see how this is
Pakistan
gonna
are accusing
play
each
out
other of
without more
violating a
violence.
ceasefire deal, just hours after the nuclear-armed neighbors agreed to end the most serious military confrontation in decades. There were celebrations in Pakistan's capital, Islamabad, after the truce was announced. It follows days of escalating cross-border missile and drone attacks. The military confrontation was triggered by a militant attack on Indian-administered Kashmir last month that killed 26 people, most of them Indian tourists. U.S. President Donald Trump announced the truce, saying it followed mediation efforts by Washington. Now, India's foreign secretary is accusing Pakistan of violating the ceasefire multiple times. This after explosions and blackouts were reported in parts of Indian-controlled Kashmir.
This is a breach of the understanding arrived at earlier today. The armed forces are giving an adequate and appropriate response to these violations, and we take very, very serious notice of these violations. We call upon Pakistan to take appropriate steps to address these violations and deal with the situation with seriousness and responsibility.
And Pakistan's foreign ministry released a statement saying it remains committed to the ceasefire and accused India of violating the truce. In a televised speech, the Prime Minister did not address the violations. Instead, he thanked the US and other countries for helping to broker the ceasefire deal.
We have acted as a responsible state for the world and regional peace and stability, and for the millions of people's lives in the region who gave a positive response to a ceasefire suggestion.
For more on this, we can talk to Samir Lalwani, Director of the South Asia Program at the Stimson Center and author of the book India's Kashmir Conundrum. He joins me now from Washington. Samir, the ceasefire deal is only a few hours old, and now both countries are accusing each other of violating it. What are you hearing on this front?
Well, I think there's a few things to consider with the ceasefire announcement that was took place maybe about almost 12 hours ago. So first, it's a good thing, certainly, for two nuclear powers that have been shooting at each other and conducting airstrikes on each other's territory to agree to that, at least nominally, because this is a very dangerous situation that we were getting into. Second, clearly, the Indians had a different interpretation of not just the ceasefire, but also the statements that the Secretary of State Rubio made, which were about negotiating sort of like bilateral or having sort of bilateral.
So I'm going to pause this here. I'm going to go over to this man's assessment. He says the Indian-Pakistan ceasefire that lasted 5 minutes Why did Pakistan immediately break the ceasefire? The answer lies in what are Pakistan's war aims and how it hopes to accomplish them. The short answer is lying. Pakistan will push disinformation into the West to try and undermine India in three main ways: military superiority, moral superiority, and media bias. So let's see what this guy has to say.
To ceasefire or not to ceasefire? That is the question facing those in Islamabad right now. So if you're like me in the West, you woke up this morning and India and Pakistan had a ceasefire, and then you had a coffee, and then India and Pakistan did not have a ceasefire because Pakistan started firing at India. So what does this mean for the West? What are you looking at going forward? To understand what is going on in Pakistan, you have to understand Pakistan's modus operandi and what they're doing. So yes, the Pakistani-backed terrorist attack in Kashmir killed people for failure to recite Islamic verses. They then received refuge in Pakistan. India then did Operation Sindoor to bomb the Pakistanis' terrorist base there. India very clearly wanted to attack just the terrorists. Pakistan saw an attack on terrorists as an attack on the entire country of Pakistan, because Pakistan sees itself as a giant terrorist organization, not a formal country in any serious way. Now, to understand Pakistan further, what are their motivations? Their motivations are not peace, prosperity, security, water, blah, 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 blah. It's the maintenance of their terrorist organization for the purpose of destroying India. Even further in on that, it's the part of the Pakistani military wants to retain power, because Pakistan's not a democracy. It's a military-run dictatorship with a democratic veneer thrown on top of it to appease the Westerners to continue to get bailouts and loans from the Western world, right? So they either get these bails and loans through hook and crook or through threatening and, the threat of nuclear annihilation. They then threaten the world into paying for them. So that's their goal. Now, what is Pakistan's modus operandi? Lie, 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 lie. And this is where it's going to become important for the West, because as they saw in the Israel-Palestine war, they know they can't militarily defeat India. And this is a major sticking point for Pakistan, because, again, you have to understand, to them, they are the Ummah, they are the clean people. Pak in the land of the clean. Their literal philosophy is that Hindus, Sikhs, Jains, Buddhists are dirt, najas, the filth of them, and they are superior to them. So Pakistan is a major superiority complex towards India. However, India's technological superiority, economic superiority, and now military superiority is a major sticking point for the Pakistani Ummah. The military superiority of India is a major blow because, again, Pakistan is a military dictatorship. They maintain power through military rule. So in order to maintain this, they must lie about India. So this is why you see the big news about Indian jets getting shot down, despite the fact that we have no evidence that Indian jets were shot down whatsoever. The major reason they want to do this is because air power is sort of the modern indicator for the strength of a military. All warfare is sort of controlled by the air. That's why, Ukraine wants a no-fly zone, wants air defense systems, and all that. The superiority of the Indian jets is a major, major sticking point to Pakistan. So, which is why they have to then claim that they've shot down so many of those jets. Now, the other thing they want to do is they want to undermine India's moral superiority to Pakistan, right? This is, again, where it's projected. So Pakistan has learned that what they want to do to damage India is they know they can't defeat India militarily, so they want to damage India reputationally. So if you saw like the flight patterns of Pakistani civilian airliners, well, they were sending drone swarms and firing at India. They were sending their own civilian passengers like along the border, right? They wanted to keep as many civilian airplanes in the sky because they were hoping to knock down a Pakistani jet. Either they would knock down their own jet or India would knock down a civilian airliner, and then they could blame it on India. This should remind you of the Islamic Republic of Iran's missile attack on PS-752, like the Ukrainian flight. Again, this is a jihadist mentality. Their threat to India is basically, we'll kill as many Pakistani people as we can to just undermine India. So the spending of, again, every terrorist that India kills will be claimed as a civilian. So this is where you get into an information warfare, where India wants to, sort of target the terrorist training camps, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Hizbul Mujahideen, all these like actual terrorist training camps, which the Pakistani military is fully funding and involved in, but we're pretending that they're separate for a bit. So India's goal is to degrade their power, but they serve a dual purpose. One, terror, so they can send jihadists in to murder non-Muslims, point blank range in places like Kashmir. But then also when they get hit, because they're not officially Pakistani military, they then get to play the, oh, look, this was just a Dr. Baby journalist, whatever. So that is the other thing they want. And the third major thing they're going to want to do is discredit of Indian media. And by flooding the sphere with absolute garbage fake news and then using Indian counterclaims going after them, essentially what they're trying to do is bait the Indian media personalities into saying things that are not true, right? By flooding the sphere with so much nonsense and misinformation and disinformation that as soon as an Indian makes a mistake, then they'll circle around on that mistake. They want to highlight that and then show that the other side, is lying and you can't trust anything, right? Because if you can just get everyone to go, I don't trust anything, or there is no truth here, then the Pakistani blitzkrieg of obscene lies becomes more powerful. Okay. So this is the current dynamic.
So he's got a tweet I have. Held to Pakistan. Fund a terrorist attack, celebrate a terrorist attack, deny a terrorist attack, face consequences of a terrorist attack, beat chest, get smoked, beg for mercy, declare victory. So Islamabad being a terrorist organization and, starting something. We don't know why they are starting this something, but it's something to keep your eye on. He also just tweeted out about this. I am not happy about this. I don't think this is a great idea. The Trump brothers are trying to get permission or leave or whatever to create a golf course in Qatar. And I'm just like, is it all sand traps?
That was it. Did you make that up?
I did.
Oh, that's good.
Thank you. I'm like, how do you golf with no grass?
Made a funny
What
joke.
is golfing with no grass? Like, how does the ball roll?
Leah.
If it's all,
I
guess it rolls on dirt.
All right.
Like, there's no grass in all of Qatar. Like,
I don't even see that Zero Hedge article.
It's over to the right.
Oh, you already had it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trump administration to accept a palace in the sky 747 jet from the royal family of Qatar.
What?
New details emerged on Sunday today, revealing that the Trump administration could soon receive one of the most valuable gifts from a foreign government, a Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet from Qatar's royal family. The 747 will be retrofitted with communication systems and other equipment to transform it into Air Force One.
No.
Yes.
I'm
telling you that.
Is this bribery?
Yes.
This is bribery.
ABC News cited people familiar with the transfer as saying that the royal family of Qatar's jumbo jet gift will be announced soon. We are the United States of America. Do we not have a proper plane for our president that we have to take it from?
Our president doesn't need this.
Announced next week Trump visits Qatar. Yes, here it's Trump is frustrated with Boeing. Boeing. Trump reportedly turns to an L3 Harris for interim Air Force One jet. He does not like Air Force One. In February, Fox Business Edward Lawrence confirmed that Boeing had suffered global supply chain snarls that changed project timings and delayed the completion date to 2029. I could see that. That's a problem. But what's wrong with the plane right now? Anticipating these questions, sources told ABC News that lawyers for the White House's counsel office and the Department of Justice drafted an analysis for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, concluding that it is legal for the Department of Defense to accept an aircraft as a gift and later turn it into the Trump library.
Stop it.
And that it does not violate laws against the bribery or the Constitution's prohibition of the emoluments clause of any U.S. government official accepting gifts from any king, prince, or so. Like, it literally says that a government official cannot accept a gift from a king, a prince, or a foreign state. It's coming from a foreign state. Like, why can't you just buy it? Why do you have to give it to them? Why can't you just buy it?
I don't think we can afford it, Leah. We're in debt. You know what? Okay, stop it.
Pam Bondi and Trump's top White House lawyer, David Morgenthau, concluded it would be legally permissible for the donation of the aircraft to be conditioned on transferring its ownership to Trump's presidential library before the end of his term.
So wait a minute. So it wouldn't become Air Force One?
It's going to be retrofitted to Air Force One, but it's going to be it'll be.
But then it'll be wait.
It'll
so
be
what
Trump's
it means
forever.
is it'll be Trump forever.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the government can't buy it because Trump wants it like forever. It's not going to the next president.
Oh my gosh. This feels so wrong.
It is bad.
It feels icky.
Okay, here's the
feels
question.
Slimy. Feels like oil.
It smells like oil too.
Smells like petrol.
So what if Obama did this?
Oh, telling you.
Okay,
Follow
but
the money.
we have more. Before we get to actually the rest of our show, the rest of our show is going to be just awesome. So just stick with us. We're
Hang
going
on.
to talk about.
Ballistic Mystic says Pakistan may suffer from an inferiority complex, and that is dangerous. I agree.
So Pakistan, unfortunately, when it comes to Islamic countries, and I'll say this, India, they actually are having a revival of Christianity. India is dirty.
Oh,
it's gross. I'm just going to tell you, it's gross. People who've gone there, there was a whole like Twitter thing that went on a couple months ago where people were saying women don't travel there alone. It's gross. It's dirty. It's disgusting. I get it. But as far as pharmaceuticals go, as far as technology goes, they have they're really smart. They're very intelligent people. And the ones that actually get an education, because they do still have the caste system, and they look down on people for caste reasons.
No. They don't just look down on, like, literally,
they treat them like trash.
Because it's not just a caste system, okay? You have the caste system mixed with reincarnation.
Yeah.
And when you do that,
reincarnation is the caste system.
Yeah, a little.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, but you know what I mean?
If you're born low, it's because you deserve it.
Exactly. Because you were a terrible person in the past.
Right.
And so there's no you rising to the top,
It's
because you get
horrible
what you are, what you deserve.
That money, your status and how you're born in money equates to how good you were as a person before. That's just horrible. However, Pakistan, I don't even know, what does it produce? Like, India produces chips, it produces pharmaceuticals, it produces all of our call centers. India produces a lot of great doctors, by the way. What does Pakistan produce? Just terrorists. So they do have an inferiority complex.
Pakistan is a major producer of agricultural goods, rice, cotton, fruits, especially mangoes and oranges, and vegetables. It does manufacture textiles, clothing, and other goods. It is a larger exporter of raw cotton and a significant producer of rice.
Okay, so before we go on to the great news of revival in the UK, and I'm just going to spend the rest of the show on this because I'm so excited about it. Thank you, Barry, for pointing this out. We're making this a whole segment. I do have to point this out. There is a video going around. Michelle, play this video.
What?
Of Keir Starmer, Emmanuel Macron, and the German prime minister, and people are wondering if they're high. Somebody grabs this little stir and somebody grabs a tissue, and were they doing cocaine? You can put some volume up. There's volume. Isn't it? Yeah. I'm going to hide this, and I'm going to hide that. It's weird. Acting a little bit. I'm gonna get rid of this tissue. Like we're watching the whole time. We're gonna watch it again. Ready? Okay, here he comes in. I don't think Keir Starmer was in on it, so he doesn't know because he's just coming in. So what was happening with the German guy and Macron? Ready? Grab the stir. Grab the tissue. He looks a little fruity. He looks like he's hiding something. And I'm going to then goodbye. So French media are on the defensive after journalists unexpectedly entered a train carriage carrying French President Emmanuel Macron along with the German and British prime ministers en route to Kiev on Friday, which sparked a firestorm on social media with allegations of cocaine use by the top leaders. The social media users cite videos that allegedly show Macron discreetly hiding a strange white bag. It wasn't a tissue, it's the white bag on the table. The French daily newspaper Libération added, and according to these accounts, Frédéric Merz even had a straw to use to take drugs. These conspiracy accusations fit with the narrative that Western elites are depraved and approach war unconsciously. When the reporters entered the room, Macron was meeting with German Chancellor Frédéric Merz and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer on the train ride from Poland to Ukraine.
So Keir Starmer was already in there. He just got up or something.
Liberation rushed to the defense of Macron and Western leaders. Several internet users sharing posts favorable to Vladimir Putin have claimed that the three men had used cocaine together. Coke will decide World War III, one of them feigned concern. High-quality photographs and videos, such as those taken by the APF and AP news agencies, show that the mysterious bag of white powder is actually a handkerchief rolled into a ball. It did look like a tissue that was placed on the table before Keir Starmer arrived and the cameras entered the booth. Where Macron and Merz were already seated, the straw looks more like a stir or a toothpick, which the German Chancellor is said to have been fiddling with. This explains why the two leaders do not want these objects immortalized in the images of the meeting. Why maybe Liberation's defense of Macron and other Western leaders is accurate. Perhaps it really was just a handkerchief and toothpick. But the real red flag is the leaders' abrupt and suspicious behavior as they scramble to cover up whatever was on the table when journalists unexpectedly entered the train carriage. Cocaine allegations come as no surprise, considering the leaders are inbound to visit this guy. So you can play this video. Zelensky is visibly high here. How much longer are we going to let this clown show go on? This man is coked out of his mind.
Mr. President, I just returned from several areas along the front line in the south and in the east. And soldiers there told me they have to ration their ammunition. They don't have enough weapons to advance. They can only defend themselves. In some cases, they're losing territory. What happens to your country if this American aid doesn't arrive?
We will lose a lot of people. We will lose territories.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
What is that? Is that one in the, that's not in the article, that's in something else.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a...
It looks like a handkerchief. That does not look like a bag. For sure, that's a tissue. And it does look like a stirrer. So I think that something is being read into this based on their suspicious behavior, which that to me is apparent.
I don't know. Carl Benjamin and a lot of these people, Dinesh D'Souza, are saying it's a bag.
Let's look at it again together. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Hang on, wrong.
Developing scandal, bag of white powder.
But it doesn't look like a bag to me. And I can't make it any bigger unless I continue to watch on X.
Let me see how he picks it up. Let's see. Tissues will be, I don't know. See,
he crumbles it. And that does not look like a bag to me. It doesn't even move. Hang on, wait. Wait. I'm not trying to play devil's advocate here, but watch the way that the folder moves the paper, the paper touches it. Watch, Leah, watch mine. Okay, so this paper in a second touches it and it moves it very, like it's so lightweight, like a tissue. Watch. Wait. See, it just moved like that moved it quick like a tissue. That wouldn't have moved that. A piece of paper would not have moved a bag of cocaine that easily. I'm sorry.
But what about the stirrer?
It just looks like a stirring.
But what is he stirring?
Well, that's a question worth asking.
I don't know, guys. We'll find out. Somebody else will do it higher.
So listen, again, I am 1000% convinced that these people do drugs. And they do illicit drugs. Like, and whatever is on Macron's face, that maybe they actually were doing drugs and there's some sort of leak about that. But trying to attribute these things to it, I think is just...
But why does he have a stirrer? Like, it's
what was put in the drink? Maybe there was something put in the drink. I don't know.
It is a metal thing. It's not a toothpick. And he's hiding it.
But here's the thing. How do you know it's metal?
Well, you can kind of see. I'll just retweet something.
No, I've got it right here. I've got the picture up. This is what I'm saying.
It's not a toothpick.
They are clearly posing for a photo op. I wish I could turn the camera for you guys to see all of this. But if I'm posing for a photo op that's going to be seen by lots of people and I'm a world leader, I'm going to move the tissue off the table.
Yeah.
I am going to do that. Now, whether Macron is going to do that, I don't know. But like, I'm going to move the tissue. I'm not going to leave a tissue in a picture for it. That's a tissue, Leah. That is not a crumpled baggie.
I don't know.
I'm not buying it.
I don't know.
I'm totally on board with them possibly being druggies. Like, that does not bother me. Barry says, Michelle, got news for you. Cocaine is very light, so it probably would move like that. Cocaine is from what I understand, the same texture as powdered sugar. That is not the same thing as, like, I have a tissue right here. All right, we've got
Michelle,
tissue.
It's okay.
This
no,
looks
actually,
like
it didn't look.
Tissue.
No, it didn't.
It looks like a crumpled tissue.
No, it actually doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Let me see. No, because a tissue expands.
Oh my gosh.
A tissue would expand a little bit farther. Look how that is expanded. It's paper. A tissue would not stay like that. It does not
expand. Yes, it does. It stays like that. Leah, yes, it stays like that, especially if you've used it.
Look. You're always going to have something. Ridiculous. No, even if he just went like this once, it's not going to look like that.
Gosh.
It's a crumpled piece of paper. It's cocaine.
All right. So Ohio Croatian says, at minimum, the Euros are sipping cognac or whiskey and are temporarily happy. That much I understand. No problem. I get that too. I don't know. I wish it looked more like there was a there. But on their faces, there's a there. There's something there that they're hiding so much. And they do seem to be under an influence. Macron's little giggly face, I don't like it. MGTOW says, druggy or not, they are scumbags. We agree.
All right, but you know what's not so scummy, and here's the rest of the show. I'm so excited about this. Revival is sweeping over the UK. I've got a gazillion videos. CBN's covering it, and you know what I'm hearing from what I've in the videos that I've watched is it's not a showy revival. It's deep inside the soul. We're gonna start. Yeah, it's deep inside the soul. It's a quiet, personal knowledge that there's something deeper to life.
That's good.
You've got to find it and to answer to the world's biggest problems. And I love this.
In the UK. In the midst of one of the darkest times in recent history, where we have seemingly infinite problems, the economy is crumbling, the government is possibly the most hostile it has ever been to Christianity in its history, there's massive Islamic immigration that threatens our very national survival, and even church leaders are staying quiet as Christians are arrested in silent prayer, there is finally, by the grace of God, a sign of hope. People have been talking about this in whispers for some time. There's been anecdotal reports, but now it seems as if there is finally hard evidence of what a lot of those people have sensed. And people are asking the question, could this be the beginnings of a revival?
I love it. I feel
this video is sponsored by Wasson Watches. Stay tuned to find out more. So today I want to look at a study that everyone has been talking about since it came out last week. I would have talked about it last week, but I had a nice bout of gastritis, and so instead of doing that, I decided it would be much more fun to spend the day that I normally spend editing videos lying on the floor and groaning in pain. I thought about recording that as well and putting it out there, but it's probably not as edifying content. But anyway, here you go, slightly late, but nonetheless really important information. What happened is that the Bible Society and YouGov put out a report entitled The Quiet Revival. So they originally started looking at this in 2018, and then in 2024 they revisited and compared the data sets between the two, looking at the state of religion, in particular Christianity in the UK. And here is the big headline that pretty much everybody needs to know. Church attendance has risen by 50% over the past 6 years in the United Kingdom. 50%. That is huge. What that means in raw numbers is that there are 2 million more people attending church on average every week than there were 6 years ago. And so in this video, I'm going to break down some of the key findings, and with each of those key findings, I want to give one key takeaway that I think every Christian, and in particular every church, needs to be paying attention to. So here's point number one. Young people, open parentheses, and also old people, close parentheses, are coming back to church. Let me start with the second bit, the parenthesis bit, because I actually think it matters. We often assume that old people have always gone to church and would never stop going to church, but actually their numbers go up and down too, and they themselves, those over the ages of 65, have seen something of a revival. Their church attendance has increased by 30% in the last 6 years. That's really exciting. Now, setting that aside, worth mentioning, but not the most exciting bit. The most exciting bit is what is happening with young people. When it comes to the older Gen Z, or Gen Z if you're American, but this is about the United Kingdom, so we'll say it correctly, Gen Z. Well, they are seeing a huge rise in church attendance. It has tripled there from 4% to 13%. There's also been a rise in church attendance of 60% of those older than 34 and younger than 44. But most exciting of all, in all of this data, is that the youngest cohort of Gen Z, those aged between 18 and 34, they have seen a fourfold increase in church attendance. There's been a fourfold increase in church attendance in that group, from 4% to 16% of that demographic regularly attending church in 6 years. What that means is that on average, a 21-year-old is more than 3 times more likely to be a church-going Christian than a 51-year-old. Now, the big takeaway in all of this, and admittedly there's some speculation here, I think they've seen the deadness of atheism. I think they are unimpressed by the results of secularism. And I think they are much more aware as well of the threat of Islam to the future of the nation. And they have decided to return to church because they actually need some serious foundation. They need it for their life, and they need it for their national identity. And I don't know that all of them are necessarily thinking explicitly in those terms, but I think instinctively and subconsciously that could be what is happening. Now, point 2, I think, is complementary to this idea, which is that not everyone is coming back to church. I've not seen anybody else mention this, but let's look at those who are not seeing a rise in church attendance. If we look at the graph, those aged from 45 to 64 are still less likely to attend church than they were 6 years ago. Now, the takeaway from this, whilst I don't like pitting generations against one another or complaining about others, I actually think that this generation, so the sort of Gen Xers and some of the younger boomers, maybe even some of the older millennials, I think they made a lot of bad decisions that put us in the position that we are in. It's this generation that became devotees of the new atheists when they were in their heyday, Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, all of those guys, Daniel Dennett, etc. Justin Welby would be part of this generation, the man who destroyed the Church of England, along with all the current bishops pretty much, also in this generation. This generation voted for Tony Blair 3 times and opened the border. David Cameron is in this generation, again voted for by these people, as well as Boris, as well as Keir Starmer, all of whom have really destroyed the country and yet have refused to change anything.
Not a great plan.
They also run all the companies that have gone woke. They brought in all of the DEI legislation. They're kind of in charge of the country at this point. Now, I know that we often like to say that millennials are the worst, and as a millennial, I kind of agree. We're not a great generation in many ways. But it's interesting that when you look at who brought in these decisions, who did all of this, they weren't really enacted. These policies weren't enacted by millennials by and large. They were enacted by this slightly older group.
On the millennials.
Maybe to appease millennials, but nonetheless, it wasn't millennials that carried it out. I'm not sure, but I think that's interesting. And it's also interesting that this group, in the midst of all of this, are not experiencing anything of this mass return to church. Now, point 3. Of those coming back to church, which we see as young people, well, young men in particular are those coming back in the biggest numbers. The split is not even across genders. So young women have increased their church attendance. About 12% of this age group's women are going to church. Now, that is wonderful, but it's the rise in church attendance among young men that is absolutely startling. At present, 21% of young men aged 18 to 24 in the United Kingdom are regularly attending church.
That's crazy.
That is incredible, okay? And I know a lot of guys, sometimes, they get brought along to church for the girls. That's the old flirt to convert strategy. That is not what's happening here. They are coming in spite of the women actually not being there in as big numbers. In fact, in that demographic, men are almost twice as likely as women to attend church. 21% of males, 12% of females. Again, both are rising. That's good to see. But the rise in young men is at least, at minimum, 5-fold over the last 6 years. And what's the takeaway here? Well, men are waking up. Masculine Christianity is on the rise. And I don't think that's particularly surprising. The discrimination against men in this country is appalling. We've talked about it a lot on this channel. And the takeaway here is that men are waking up and masculine Christianity is on the rise, okay?
So I have a thought on this before we keep going, because I don't want to get lost in this amazing video that this guy's doing, and I love it so much. I think his name is Jamie Bambrick over on YouTube. You guys can give him a follow. But I kind of was thinking of, not to get like a little bit evolutionary about this, but the survival of the fittest. I feel like there's this innate thing in all of us, but especially in men, that is like, if we don't get it right, we're dying off. Like in order to, like the whole human race is going to just go and implode if we don't fix something. And the only way to fix it is to come back to God. You know what I mean? And so I think there's something very base about this.
Well, and you look at the cultures that have some sort of belief in God, whether it's Islam or something. So you got to choose a God. If you're going to choose one, choose Christianity.
I think it's a survivalist thing. I really do. That's my humble opinion.
I don't think that's particularly surprising. The discrimination against men in this country is appalling. We've talked about it at length on this channel. We just had a judicial system decision where they tried to give white men worse sentences than every other demographic. Just basically a racial caste system, which is absolutely appalling. And Christianity has always had an appeal to the outcasts, and the disliked and the downtrodden. And it's seemingly using that to appeal to young men like never before, telling them that they actually do have a purpose and they have value as those made in the image of God. So we're seeing the faith become cool for young men. The blue-haired feminists are losing, and woke is on the way out, and Christ is on the way back.
Wow.
And men are on the way back as a result. And I guarantee, yes, the women are rising. It's not happening as quickly as it is with the men. But if the men lead, I guarantee the women will follow, and I expect over the next few years those numbers of women to also rise to come close to where the men are in that demographic. Now, point 4 is that this represents a general growth of religiosity and spirituality. It's very interesting in this report that 35% of 18 to 24-year-olds say that there is definitely a God/gods or higher power. Now, that is not those who say there might be, this is not agnostics, these are not people who are, oh yeah, probably. These are people who say definitely. These are people who hold a firm belief in God, at least a God of some sort. Now, the takeaway here is very simple. Atheism has failed to inspire and to reach the younger generation, which is no surprise at all, right? Because there's nothing inspirational in the idea that we are just an accident of physics with no ultimate purpose and headed only towards the heat death of the universe, followed by eternal nothingness. So far. At least it doesn't inspire anyone to anything good. It might inspire you to become a Stalin or a serial killer or something like that. Not going to inspire you to do much of anything and not really going to last. I think at this point, atheism has also, broadly speaking, lost the intellectual battle. It doesn't provide you with any moral foundation. There's no strong comeback to good Christian arguments on the resurrection of Jesus or the existence of God or creation of something from nothing, etc. So atheism is dead. Good riddance, right? And also, little takeaway, but this is also from the data, it's very interesting that 34%, very similar numbers, by the way, to those who believe that there definitely is a God, but 34% of non-churchgoers. So this is not within our church-going category, this is our non-church-going category, within that same demographic of 18 to 24, would attend church if invited by a friend. I think openness and hunger for spirituality and for truth and for religion and ultimately for Christianity is rising. Point number 5, this is real faith. One of the concerns in all of this would be, well, is this a fad? Are they merely becoming Christian because it's cool or for some sort of cultural fight, okay? Well, it turns out that that is not the case at all. Of all age demographics, the group aged 18 to 24 are the most likely to pray regularly, with 40% of them saying that they pray at least monthly. More than half of them, 51%, have engaged with a spiritual practice over the past 6 months, compared to 42% of those older than them. So they're a lot more likely than them to engage in some sort of spiritual practice. I would assume that's going to church, taking communion, going to a small group, things like that. They are also the group most interested in learning about the Bible. 37% of them are saying they're curious to discover more about it. 19% of that demographic read the Bible weekly outside of church. 20%? And some 67% of church-going Christians read the Bible weekly outside of church. So this is real faith, and that's the takeaway. The takeaway is this.
That's good.
Conservatism seems to be an on-ramp to Christianity, but it also does seem to be an on-ramp into real Christianity. As people become more conservative, they become more likely to become Christian. And I don't mind that at all. I really don't. I think that's perfectly fine. I think it makes perfect sense, so long as they become actual Christians. And that is what's happening. They're becoming actual Christians. Isn't that amazing? Praise God. Number 6, ethnic minorities are part of the story here. So 19% of churchgoers are from an ethnic minority, and 32% of those aged 18 to 54 are from an ethnic minority. Now, to be fair, about 18% of the population are ethnic minorities, so it's not a million miles away from that. But when we look at certain ethnic groups, we do see that close to half of black young people, 18 to 34, 47% of them, are now attending church at least monthly, while a third of 18 to 34-year-olds from mixed ethnic backgrounds are likewise regular churchgoers. We are also seeing a rise in white British attendance at church, which is a good thing. The native population is in fact seemingly coming back, at least amongst those young men, right? 18 to 34-year-old men in this group. 18% of them are attending church at least monthly, compared to 3% in 2018. That's a six-fold increase of Christianity amongst young white British men. And the takeaway is that ethnic minorities are having a positive effect on the church. Okay, now I've spoken out, got concerns about mass immigration, still do have concerns about that. In particular,
just let people in from Christian countries. Problem solved. Right? Okay, I'm going to go over some of these other videos.
Is there a quiet revival?
Hang on. Let me see.
But as is the case across the UK, we've took it over. It's now actually a mosque, a masjid. Christianity is depleting, atheism is unfulfilling, Islam is here and it's here to stay for you. So carry on making those churches for us, keep them empty. We'll buy them in a few years' time and we'll make them into a mosque.
For decades in Britain, interest in church was so low, thousands of historic church buildings were abandoned, turned into bars, skate parks, and even mosques. And in this officially Christian nation where the king is prayed over and anointed with oil by an archbishop, a poll showed that most British Christians experience hostility and ridicule for their faith. An Army veteran last year was convicted for a thought crime, his private prayer. And residents living near abortion clinics have been warned about praying inside their own homes.
Oh my gosh.
A public stand for Christ here could easily cost you your job or your career. In officially Christian Britain today, it is Bible-believing Christians who are the outsiders. They're the ones who are expected to keep silent and not offend others. The Rushmore Borough Council west of London even proposed criminalising public Christian prayer, singing and evangelism in the towns of Aldershot and Farnborough, before an intervention by Christian Legal Centre attorney Michael Phillips temporarily halted the move.
And so when I read over this proposal, it was literally banning almost everything, to ban amplification, to ban singing, to ban street preaching if it is hostile towards people with protected characteristics. It means the decimation of free speech. And that's, these are the kinds of threats that we're seeing across the country.
One of the evangelists facing a ban is Jamie Brodie, who told us about one of his encounters with police.
To begin with, some junior officers came and they tried to shut off the microphone straight away. So I began recording them and I just tried to engage them in a discussion. And I said, look, please, can you tell me what law you're acting upon?
After a public outcry, the preaching ban was put on hold. But we asked Brodie if a new law would stop him.
Much of the New Testament was written from prison. So, no.
This has been happening for decades. The removal of crosses, the removal of prayer, the continual arrest of street preachers.
Andrea Williams of Christian Concern, which is helping Brodie, says that while there are large dynamic churches in the UK, anti-Christian hostility has caused many British Christians to self-censor, to keep their faith private.
There's a whole raft of self-censorship. The church has censored itself in this country. It's as if we've become ashamed of the gospel, ashamed of our history, ashamed of who Christ is, so that we've removed him from the public space.
Now, suddenly, after decades of both religious apathy and secular opposition, British newspapers are beginning to use the word revival. Churches reported record attendance on Easter, and more British young men are going to church. Justin Brierley is the author of The Surprising Rebirth of Belief in God.
I think that's been the surprise for me, is to see that intellectual shift now being met by a real wave of interest, especially interestingly from young people in this country, who it appears are returning to church again. Very often these are young people who don't necessarily have any history with Christianity. So these are very unchurched Gen Z people.
And so this new generation that are rising up, they're growing up with no knowledge of Christianity. That's why the young Christians, this new wave of Christians, are generally quite radical.
Jamie Brodie, too, believes revival is near.
My opinion is that I can feel it. I can feel it in my fingers. God is doing it.
Jamie also says God has taken the attempt to silence his preaching and turned it around.
I have never seen more unity in the local area between the churches, and I've never seen more interest in evangelism. God is working.
The British author G.K. Chesterton once wrote that Christianity has died many times and risen again. It appears to be rising again in Great Britain.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's lovely, lovely. Do you have this one? UK experiencing a remarkable spiritual shift.
Oh, I think so.
And to the Lamb be praise and honor and glory.
A group called the King's Army marched near Buckingham Palace recently, proclaiming,
"Who is the King of Kings? Jesus!"
Founder Scott McNamara says they literally felt a change in the atmosphere.
We heard this like shock wave. It was like someone described it like a crack in the spirit. And after that, we did this like march outside Buckingham Palace and a couple of other things. And it's been incredible. Every day we're getting people enlisting to be part of King's Army, like in 20 to 30 enlistees per week at the height of this momentum. Just people reaching out from all over England saying, I want to be part of this movement.
After ministering in the streets of London for 10 years, evangelist Stephen Johnson tells CBN News he's never seen people more willing to hear the gospel.
We've actually started an outreach initiative in my home area of London. And the first time we did it, a couple of people just walked into the church afterwards, just wanting to talk. That doesn't really happen in England. We've just seen this kind of thing happen again and again. And something has shifted in people's hearts.
A major difference is that even the younger generation is responding.
It's quite normal to be mocked and ridiculed and heckled. Now we're seeing young people actually come to us for conversations in the street and actually wanting serious conversations. And something has radically changed in people's hearts.
Johnson says people are searching for answers to the world's problems. And what used to be hard is now easy.
If you can turn them on the streets with a bunch of flyers, stop someone and says, what do you know about Jesus? Or are you interested in spiritual things? Just start a conversation. It is not difficult. And for England, of all places, that's a remarkable shift.
This is a picture of Jesus knocking on the door of your heart. The handle's on the inside, which means only you can let him in.
McNamara, who pioneered a ministry called Jesus at the Door in 2014 to help Christians share the gospel, says the Lord recently gave him a global mandate.
He said, I'm raising up an army for the end times, call it the King's Army. I'm going to push back darkness in these end times. The vision for King's Army is really to establish these corps, these regiments in pockets all around the world, to start fires all around the world, where Christians can come and be trained, and together, shoulder to shoulder, they can raise the standard and push back the darkness.
He believes revival will happen
when the church wakes up. Revival comes, and then there will be a great third awakening. So this great commission, this mission that we've been given to go and take back what the devil's stolen, has been given to the church, and the church is waking up to this, and it's beautiful to see.
Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
That's
you know,
amazing.
there's the political side to it, the conservatism, and I'll play this here from GB News, that's driving it. And then there's the actual, once you're in.
Good evening.
Christ is changing your life.
Today we received the sad news that Pope Francis passed away at the age of 88. The Vatican revealed he died of a stroke and heart failure. Now this plunged the Catholic world into mourning. We can show you scenes from Argentina. There is not an event that people like Mr. Yusuf won't make about Gaza, is there? But on the idea...
Hang on, we need a timestamp.
I don't know. Just
idea of the next Pope, I think it's going to be happening in Britain right now. Okay. I think Britain is experiencing a Christian revival. Thousands of people were pointing this out online, like GB News regulars Emma Trimble and Aaron Bastani and Tim Stanley of The Telegraph, as they attended various different services over the Easter weekend. I mean, the facts bear this out as well. The number of people reporting monthly attendance at churches has risen from 8% in 2018 to 12% in 2024. But the most remarkable jump in reported church attendance has been amongst Generation Z. So it's the younger people, really, quadrupling from 4% of 16... from 4% to 16% of 18 to 20 up. Being present is a show of strength and force. And I think we are seeing a surge in church numbers, in Christianity and in baptisms, not just because people want to find God in difficult and uncertain times, which I think, by the way, is a big part of it, but because people, frankly, want their country back.
Us blokes hate talking about a little thinning up top, and many of us say relax the whole time. And
Jake Berry, we've got journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, and the former Tory MP Anna Firth. I work my way down. Jake, I'll start with you on this. Do you think that we are seeing a Christian revival in Britain based around people, frankly, well, wanting to reclaim their country in a way?
Well, I certainly hope so. I thought they were very encouraging, particularly the figures around young people attending church. Now, I think I can get away with saying this just a day after Easter Sunday. You know, Jesus Christ is the most inspirational person in the world for me. I'm a Christian, I'm a committed Christian. And, you know, I think people are looking at religion, the feeling of going to church, feeling part of a community, you know, feeling part of a group of individuals that have a shared common set of values. And I think that's something that they want and yearn for in their life. And that's why I think we're seeing numbers going up, particularly with young people. And I hope that we continue to see that. Religion isn't for everyone. I wouldn't force it down anyone's throat. But I think that feeling of togetherness, that feeling of society and British society is something people are seeking.
Yeah, Anna, I do think we are seeing a bit of a pushback. I think people have kind of maybe just had enough, really, here in Britain and want to reclaim some kind of Christian culture.
Well, I'd love to believe that's absolutely the case, and I totally agree. I'm a Christian myself. I totally agree that the more we espouse Christian values, I mean, I think Christianity is a fantastic force for good, but whether these figures, I'd love to know the source of these figures, because one of the things I've been railing against, actually, is the way this government, this Labour government, has changed the rules around VAT, which is a really big problem for churches when they need to spend on repairing themselves. And one of the things that churches have said is, with declining rolls has come declining donations. So I'm not 100% sure that I believe these figures. I would love to believe them, though. I think it would be a fantastic thing. Has happened in the past. In 1904, there was the big Welsh revival. 130,000 people suddenly signed up to the church. It caused a massive problem in the pits, because the pit ponies didn't respond because the swearing had stopped, and there were all sorts of interesting things that happened. That actually spread throughout the world, so it has happened. Let's hope it is happening.
Well, Benjamin, I know that you don't always speak very fondly of people of a certain age. There seems to be a demographic of people that you despise, actually. But well, no, I think the question is there a demographic of people you like, Ben? That's what. Well, but I do.
Former Tory MPs.
But one of the things I will say is that I do think that there is a case to be said for quite a large cohort of people who were maybe 50 plus in Britain, who were very complacent about Britain and British culture and Britain's way of life, and thought that they were doing, for want of a better phrase, the Lord's work by being all open and inclusive, etc. And actually now are waking up to the reality that they don't really like what they see. And I think that maybe now the younger generation, as those figures would bear out anyway, Generation Z as they're called, are actually coming to Christianity.
I mean, I was raised by my grandparents, and they were atheists, and that was because they went to schools where nuns were really rather unpleasant in day-to-day life. And I think actually quite a lot of people of that generation describe some of those religious schools as not being very nice places a few generations ago, and I wonder whether that's part of why there was such a decline in belief. But, you know, I was listening to your figures thinking, well, they sound rather more dramatic than I would have imagined. But then, you know, most of my friends, the majority of them are gay men, and most of them are churchgoers and Christians. And indeed, quite a few of them are people that I've been to their baptisms. You know, it's been in recent years. They weren't raised in those families. So, you know, that would suggest there is some kind of trend. For me, I mean, I go to those because, you know, the church has free wine, and frankly, I'll turn to any organisation with free wine. I would love to. Well, you have
allowed a sip.
Yeah, you should go to Reverend Marcus Walker's. But, you know, I would say that I would love to be a Christian, because what I see in those friends is that sense of community and that sense of clarity really has helped them. But I simply don't believe in God.
Well, that's fair. Look, that is fair enough. I'm not here to Bible bash. But one thing I will say, Jay, is that I do think people are thinking now, if they are looking at illegal immigration figures, massive immigration figures, rapid cultural and demographic change in Britain, I think a lot of people feel as though they only have a right to be able to talk about those things a lot of the time if they are almost putting their money where their mouth is and going to church.
I actually like that. If they put their money where their mouth is and going to church and actually bringing about change the right way. Oh, we saw that one. Hang on. we're going to go over here. We saw that one.
For centuries.
Hang on, guys.
So within the Catholic Church itself.
So the question is will Catholicism or Protestantism or Anglicanism, can either of them save Britain's soul? Because what we're actually seeing is a lot of Pentecostalism.
The fact that the most profound and authoritative and sort of deepest roots are the ones that are appealing most, I think is indicative that people are searching for an antidote to the civilizational chaos you referred to. I'm terribly worried about censorship. I'm worried about people being sent to jail for thinking things.
I'm Emma Trimble, and this is GBN Originals. Now, we've seen a lot in the news recently about the quiet revival that seems to be taking place in Christianity, not just here in the UK, but also across the Western world. In the last couple of weeks, we've seen bumper numbers at churches around the country, with huge numbers of people attending Mass at Westminster Cathedral, running even outside of the door. So I'm delighted to say that today I'm joined by Dr. Gavin Ashenden, who is the former chaplain to our late Queen Elizabeth II and is also the co-host of the Catholic Unscripted podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today, Gavin. So let's start by talking about the news over the last couple of days that churches throughout Easter have seen a bumper attendance rates, and apparently descriptions from Cardinal Nichols of queues literally reaching out across the road outside of Westminster Cathedral, estimates of around 50,000 attending just Westminster Cathedral Mass alone. What do you think explains this?
Well, it's a very interesting phenomenon, Emma, and it's taken me by surprise. My inner apocalyptic pessimist has been didn't expect it. Obviously, a number of factors. I think that one of the most important ones, but also one of the most complex ones, is the fact that we're at a moment of civilizational discontent and crisis. And part of the element of this have been a secular narrative that there is no God, there are no absolute standards. Life can be whatever you make it up to be. The sort of the third wave feminist idea that whatever you have in your head is the accurate picture of reality.
So I just want to say something here, that life can be whatever you make it. The problem is when life isn't what you make it. When you've made all your plans and you went down a road and you said, I'm going to do it this way. You know, a lot of people whose lives are great and going just as the way you planned, they don't need God.
Right.
You don't need God. But when you were told, you know, a lot of kids were taken, you know, they weren't able to go to university or school, or, you know, COVID really shook things up. And I feel like in a really good way, because when your plans, I think the devil made some mistakes by messing up people's plans. If you just let people go with along their lives and have their plans, then they don't need God. But then there's cracks in the veneer when your plans aren't good. When somebody gets cancer, somebody dies, somebody the love of your life walks away. Your kids are a mess. You lose your career, and then that was your plan. That was your goal. That was your life. You woke up and you did that, and then suddenly you need something more to fill your soul. You need something more. Life has to be more than this, because if my plans are getting off track and I'm getting nervous and I'm getting upset, or depression is setting in, or the finances aren't there, like, is there something more? Because I'm okay if there's something more. But I'm not okay if I can't jump to the ladder and I can't get to the top and I can't do all that I want. I'm not okay if this is all there is. But there is something that is so peaceful and so calming, of living a self-sacrificial life that Christ gives you. And then you begin to live a life that is giving. And then you're also knowing that there's a reward system in heaven. So when you die, the things that you give up, the things you don't get to do, the things that you do for others something today rather than yourself. Or maybe instead of going shopping, you go and help somebody mow their lawn, because you're recognizing it's not so much a good thing. Yes, it's good to fill your soul and it's good to help others, but you're also doing something for God that you know is pleasing to him, and that you want to please your Father. And so one day when you see him, Jesus says, store up treasures in heaven.
And this has led to some really quite extraordinary social phenomena, including the whole trans debate, which is hard to take seriously and appears to be almost an act of collective mental disconnect. At some point, people are going to say, how did this happen? And where can we find some kind of handrail? What scale of values can we find that will allow us, at a sort of an epistemological level, to challenge the craziness of the world we appear to be in? And Christianity is one obvious contender. But within Christianity, one of the strange things that's happened is that the Protestant Reformation seems to have run its course. In other words, it was set up to deal with inconsistencies in the 16th century, and then it became an end in itself, which is fine. I think renewal movements tend to do that, but the demands placed upon Christianity at the moment require an authoritative and, if you like, an absolute set of values, because we just can't compare one relative set with another set. And one of the things I found as an Anglican over the last 40 years is that Anglicanism simply gave way to the pressure to conform to secular morals, because there was a great deal of pressure to do it. And you had to find some authority beyond just the way you read the Bible or the way your friends read the Bible. The Catholic Church has been in this business for 2,000 years. It has a very well-developed set of morals and ethics and perspectives, and effectively a very, very well-developed authority structure. Now, in other times, this has been felt to be oppressive and difficult, but in our times, it comes to the rescue, and is a very powerful antidote to the chaos and relativism that I think a lot of people feel themselves overwhelmed by.
Yeah, I think we feel it as individuals, but also it seems quite clear on a cultural, societal level that we're undergoing some kind of civilizational exhaustion.
Sure.
So it would make sense that people are then returning back to the wellspring that created our civilization in the first place. And this is also something that we're seeing, if you've seen the photographs and the footage of it, across the Western world. It's not just here in the UK. Something also seems to be happening in France. Enormous numbers of people who have been baptized across the Holy Week and Easter. So there seems to be something going on that is civilizational in a deeper sense than this just being a reaction to, certain progressive political movements. It seems that people are turning towards those forms of Christianity that take themselves most seriously. They're not turning towards the woolly liberal forms of Christianity.
I think that's right. I mean, you can write it off as a reaction or as a pendulum, but I think it's much more likely as an antidote. I mean, it's very strange indeed that within the Catholic Church itself, the subdivision, if you like, of the Latin Mass, which is the most, in some senses, rationally inaccessible and culturally challenging liturgy you could ever encounter, and yet carries within it a sort of a sense of authenticity, of power, of transcendence that is utterly unique. You'd think it would be the kind of thing that people would have to limber up towards, and yet within the Catholic Church, it's a place where young people are flocking and saying, this is what we need, this is what we want. Do they know why exactly? I'm not sure they do, but it's a form of kind of intuitive hunger and recognition. It's almost working at a visceral level. They know what they know, if you like, rather, even if they can't explain it. So within the Catholic Church itself, the fact that the most profound and authoritative and the deepest roots are the ones that are appealing most, I think is indicative that people are searching for an antidote to the civilizational chaos you referred to.
See, this is very interesting as well, because obviously the Pope Francis, who's just passed away, he effectively banned the traditional Latin Mass that is so popular with young people, except in some very limited circumstances, radically restricted it, shall we say. So that seems to be somewhat out of step with young people who are turning towards Catholicism, young people who want to attend the traditional liturgy. And we've seen some comments over the last couple of days, various cardinals, Cardinal Dolan, for example, talking about how we need to see a turn back towards tradition. That I think he said that we need someone with the conviction and fortitude of John Paul II, the intellectual powers of Benedict, and the heart of Francis.
Yes, that's right.
But there does seem to be some recognition that, on the one hand, the Catholic Church would do well to return to tradition, but because that's what people are flocking towards, and also because, in my opinion, that's the right thing to do. But you also, on the other hand, have the high probability that we will see a pope who is actually from more of the progressive liberal side of things. So how do you're a convert to Catholicism from Anglicanism. How do you view the future of the papacy, depending on who may or may not be the next pope?
Well, these are very difficult questions. I think, first of all, we have to acknowledge that Pope Francis has some wonderful strengths, but he had some fairly serious weaknesses as well, and inconsistency was one of them. And he was clearly driven by some private angst about traditionalism. He could only see it as a form of rigidity. So, no doubt, along the road somewhere, he had some really rather difficult experiences, and they may be combined with a whole row about the Second Vatican Council and the fact that the Latin Mass stands, well, it predates it, obviously, but it also stands over against the way in which some people have sought to use the Vatican Council the Second Council as an instrument of progressive value. So there are some very complicated political strands in here. But I think the answer is that I'm hoping that although the cardinals themselves are mainly appointed by Francis, they'll do what you and I are doing. They'll look at what's going on. And I hope they'll refresh their judgments. I mean, I find that as I get older, I keep on having to revisit my judgments. Some of them are correct, some of them are a bit off, some of them are hard to let go because I like them. But nonetheless, if we're going to be honest before God and honest before ourselves, we have to evolve ourselves in our perceptions. I hope very much that the cardinals can do that. We also trust that the Holy Spirit will be involved. And I love this idea that what we need are the strengths of the last three popes. We need the best of John Paul II, we need the best of Benedict, and we need the best of Francis. And at his best, it was good. But it would be wonderful if within the present group of cardinals there was somebody who could bring out just those elements, because those are what we need today.
Do you think that there's a generational element to this, that you and I are of different generations? I think perhaps a lot of them more.
So it's very interesting to see the hunger for traditionalism and the hunger for Catholicism is there. And we're seeing people, I keep seeing Candace Owens becoming Catholic. A lot of people becoming Catholic. I think who's the blonde that you see from the Netherlands? She recently became Catholic, and she's
Ava.
Yeah. So there's a hunger there, I think, for structure. And that is in every area of our life: exercise, food, relationships. What she said here, and I love this presenter, she's obviously Catholic. She said, what built the wellspring that built our civilization? Civilization was built from Christianity. You had barbarism before Christianity. You had people who were, you just look at Rome. Rome was civilization as civilized as the world had gotten, right? But they were still a bloody empire and crucifying people on crosses and, cutting people's limbs off. And this was, when you look at Christianity going to South America, where you have the Aztecs, Indians who have been, murdering people and human sacrifice, the building up of society when Christianity is done correctly. It's not always done correctly. And why is it not done correctly? Because Christianity can't just be, I'm attending church. It can't just be a political movement. It's actually better if it's not a political movement, but that the people that their hearts are changed begin to push back against anything. And as people's hearts changed, then the wokeism or the oppression or the tyranny gets put in a box. And you see this with William and Mary. You see this with John Locke. You see this with Algernon Sidney. If you guys don't know that, you can put that in the search bar and you can see we did some great shows on some great British Christian minds, John Wycliffe.
The search bar on
William Tyndale.
resistancechicks.com.
Yeah, and on resistancechicks.com, not on YouTube, sorry. But I want to go over here to this video here, back with the same guy. I'm going to get his name here. No, not Jamie, the other one.
Oh, okay.
10 huge shifts in Britain's spiritual temperature.
I think I'm going in the wrong direction
here. Yeah. Is this revival?
Okay, there you go. You gave me the wrong title.
And ye shall know the truth.
Not that one.
How about you find it? You know where it's at.
But it's not just about retreat. Just 6% of churchgoers over.
Okay.
Hang on, let me screen share. My alarm's going off because I have to go walk a dog.
This is huge. Last year, The Spectator said its #1 most read article was by Justin Brierley that a revival of Christianity is underway in Britain. Many people dismissed that because, well, Justin Brierley has a book to sell. His book is called The Surprising Rebirth of Belief in God, which spoke of key figures in the meaning crisis coming out on the side of Christianity, but it was very light on statistical data to support it. Last year, Justin was asked about the statistical backing.
And are there any stats, if we're going to have a kind of reason?
This is the thing, and the only stats I quote in the book are the ones that are contrary to my thesis. Yes, there are actually, we know well that the decline in church-going, the decline in religiosity, the rise of the so-called nuns, people who don't claim any religious affiliation. So that's all out there. We can all see the statistics about church-going in the West. And what I present in the book, at least, is essentially just a sense that actually that might not be the full story, that actually there's a sense in which there's a turning of the tide. Now, that doesn't mean that we're seeing a wave coming back at us, but I feel like something has changed, and we might just be at the furthest end of that secularism before it comes back in.
Justin was sensing a change at the level of intellectual discourse about Christianity, and many of us on the ground have been sensing a change. There are more people showing up in church with not much of an idea why they are there. We have felt a vibe shift, but where is the data to back it up? The data is now in. There is a quiet revival that is happening in the UK. That is the name of the Bible Society's report, which was released today. It's called The Quiet Revival. They are comparing extensive survey data from 2018 with data that has just released. In 2018, YouGov surveyed 19,000 adults in England and Wales. And as a follow-up, YouGov have again surveyed 13,000 adults asking the same questions. This is very robust research, though it is about self-reports, and I'll talk about that at the end. I have 5 caveats that I will give at the end of this, but mostly I want to say this is huge, this is astonishing. Here are 10 shifts that we are witnessing in the spiritual landscape of Britain. We are moving from shrinking to growing. Between 2018 and 2024, regular church-going in the UK has gone from 8% to 12%. That is a stunning increase. Now, again, regular church-going means monthly, and regular church-going is about self-report rather than people ticking off names inside the church. But it was self-report back in 2018, and it was monthly back in 2018. And this shift is a huge shift from a shrinking church to an actually growing church. You might have thought that decline was inevitable. Many Christians have thought that church decline is inevitable. Many non-Christians have thought that church decline is inevitable. Look at this graph from Peter Brierley, no relation to Justin. He is perhaps the preeminent statistician of Christianity in the UK, and you can see the figures all going in the wrong direction until today, until the Quiet Revival comes out and tells us that things have grown from 8% to 12%. That is shift number 1, and it is huge. We are shifting from a shrinking to a growing church. Shift number 2, we are moving from old to young. Church-going among 18 to 24-year-olds has risen from 4% to 16%, a 4-fold increase in just 6 years. Take a look at this graph. Back in 2018, the line just went from low to high, from younger to older, and of course it's the retirees that go to church, and of course it's the young people who don't. That is not the scene just 6 years later. 6 years later, it kind of goes on a U-shaped curve, and it's people like me in their mid-40s who are the ones who are not going to church. It is the retirees, and it is the young who are going to church. There is a move from the Church of England to Catholic and Pentecostal churches. So in 2018...
So I wanted to jump here from Anglican to Catholic to Pentecostal.
Anglicans made up 41% of churchgoers in this country. That has dropped from 41% down to 34% in 2024. Roman Catholics are now close behind Anglicans in terms of church-going numbers. If you're a churchgoer in the UK, there's a 34% chance that you're Anglican. There's a 31% chance that you are Catholic. That's up from 23% just 6 years ago. So in 2018, churchgoers were 23% Catholic. Now they are 31% Catholic. Pentecostals in that same time have gone up from 4% to 10% of churchgoing in the UK. And so much of this effect has come about through young adults. If you're between 18 and 34 in this country and you go to church, you are just as likely to go to a Pentecostal church as you are to go to a Church of England church.
I bet.
And you're actually twice as likely to go to a Roman Catholic church than you are to go to either an Anglican church or a Pentecostal church. Only 20% of churchgoers between 18 and 34 years old are actually in the Church of England. That's down from 30% in 2018. 41% of churchgoers between 18 and 34 years old are Roman Catholic. 18% are Pentecostal. So there's a shift from the Church of England to other denominations. Here's the 6th shift. It is a shift from nominalism to participation. Do you remember in 2022, the headlines came out about the 2021 census, and for the first time in the UK's history, less than half the country identified as Christian. In the 2021 census, only 46% of the country claimed to be Christian, and that was said to be a real watershed moment in the history of this country. So the census data seems to be that Christianity is trending down. This report, The Quiet Revival, is saying that Christianity is very much trending upwards. How do we account for this? Well, the census is just reporting, do you tick the box Christian on the census? This report is about, do you show up on a Sunday? And those two figures are wildly different. In fact, in the Quiet Revival statistics, those who self-identify as Christian is actually down from the 46% number. In this data from 2024, only 39% 7% of the UK population identifies as Christian. And among the young, among the 18 to 34-year-olds, this drops further to only 29% of 18 to 34-year-olds actually identify as Christian. So what's going on? Well, the report says the key here is to understand the shift that is occurring between nominal and active religious identity, with active identity being one which is intentionally adopted and reflected in distinctive beliefs and actions. The report says across society, and particularly among younger people, the idea that they are to some extent Christian by default is rapidly diminishing, with no religion instead moving into the place for non-practicing people. This shows the importance of recognizing the difference between church-going and non-church-going Christians. So here's a huge shift from nominalism to actual engagement in the church. Fewer and fewer people are reporting as Christian. More and more people are showing up in church, and I think that's for the good. In fact, this report will tell us that if you identify as Christian but don't show up in church, you have higher anxiety, much less hope for the world, and much less self-report about your own well-being in life. To simply name the name of Christianity without engaging in church seems actually to be bad for you. Going to church is incredibly good for you. We'll see that in the data. But what is absolutely worst for you is claiming to be Christian and not showing up in church.
That's good.
And enjoy your life more. The Christian story helps you to stop worrying and enjoy your life more. The data is in. The secular story is the myth. The Christian story is the reality. These are 10 shifts that are happening in this country right now, and they are huge. They are vast. They are seismic. Let me give 5 caveats as I finish. Caveat number 1, this is about the self-report of regular monthly attendance. And you might have all sorts of questions about, can we trust self-reports? And is monthly really what...
I think we're seeing it because people are talking about it. I see it all over the internet. I see people wanting to be Christian. I see... This one more video here about, I don't know this.
Well, before we get to another video, because I'm going to have to leave here in about 5 minutes.
And the truth shall make you free. This is irreverent. Faith and current affairs.
Okay. That's right. Sherry said earlier at the start of the show, she was making fun of you. She said sometimes Leah forgets to screen share when you're gone. So you were at least remembering to do that. I want you guys to, someone had left in the comment section, I don't think that this is just happening in the UK. I think it's happening around the world, and I agree with you there.
I do too.
The reason why we're so excited about it in the UK is because the numbers in the UK were so low, compared to the rest of the world, and they shouldn't be.
Just spiritually dead.
And we watched that. Like, you guys may not know this, but we've been covering the UK news and world news since the beginning.
2017. We were like the only channel on the internet who covered Brexit, and we were.
We're one of the only channels that did world news. Steve Turley did world news back then, and he still does. But now everyone does, and it's great. We've become a very global news network. Everyone has, which is awesome. But we were one of the first. And as we began to watch, and we were taking kind of a microscope to the UK, we thought, where is your faith?
Where's the Christianity?
Where's the love of Jesus?
The only way to combat Islam.
And again, you see it with Tommy Robinson for 8 years, even though we've never had him on our show. If anybody wants to make that happen, we would love to have him on the show when he's not in jail. We would kind of scream at him and say, Tommy, you can't fight Islam without Christianity. And finally, he has begun to open up to the idea, I think Christianity might be the way to go. And so we've been praying for these people for a long time. And so to see this surge of a hunger for the things of God, a hunger for the things of the Lord. To me, I'm with it. I'm right there with you guys. Like, I feel it. I feel the excitement. And I think for me, it boils down to, Leah and I have had a lot of discussions. If you guys have not been tuning in for our Healing for the Fractured Soul show, that's not my thing. I just like the news, whatever. I would highly recommend that show, because most of you guys that watch it send me an email and say that this is the show for me. Like, I love all the other stuff that you guys do, but this is the one that has transformed my life. And on that program, we have talked about the things inside of us from the time that we are children that we need and we desire, and as a kid, to have your emotions regulated by having your mom there. Or we've talked a lot about, hugs and affection and all of these types of things that, like, when you don't have them as a child, you end up hungering for them. Leah's clicking, and I'm my clicker, she tells me I can't chew around her, but that clicking is I haven't said anything the whole show. She's been clicking the whole show, and you guys have probably noticed it. But she's
My
too
other
trained.
clicker's here. You guys sent this to me.
It's a fidgeter. Leah's a fidgeter. I am too, actually. I actually appreciate them. But it's the microphone also in my ear. But when we're looking at this God-shaped hole in us, it's not just a matter of what we missed out when we were kids. It's not a matter of not getting hugged enough or affirmed enough or any of those
really
things.
Good.
Every human being has this God-shaped hole. Like, we need that fulfilled above all else. You need that. Okay. And so for 2,000 years, we've had a lot of societies, especially as Western civilization came into being, we've had that as the standard. Christian societies have been a stalwart opposition to the debauchery of licentious living and the emptiness and the hollowness that Satan offers.
Yeah.
And so whether you like it or not, if you grew up in these quote unquote Christian nations, even if you weren't a strong believer in God, you had God in you.
I love it.
To so many degrees. And now that it has been sucked. God has been sucked out of all of society. And so we are starved, whether you are a Christian or not a Christian, you are starved for the things of God.
Yeah.
And so you will, and I said this on the show the other day, and I'll end with this, and Leah can finish with her videos. Animals, and I think humans, but animals are way better at this. If you got an animal out in the desert and you find your horse that walks to a spot and starts stamping at the ground, you better get down and start digging too, right? Because they can smell that water. And so I think in humanity, there is this thing inside of us that is like, I need more God. I need God. And so you're going to go. So where are you going to go? You're going to go to the church, and you're going to go to the ones that have whatever is in your mind the most God. So that's why I think why they're going to the Latin masses, and they're going to, that may not necessarily be, and I don't think that it is, the be all and end all of a relationship with God. But if that is what in your mind equals the most God, that's where you're going to go. Because inside of you, and again, speaking to this sort of thing, and when we started getting raw milk, I did not like the flavor of it. Like, it was just, it was hard for me. You know what I mean? I just didn't, it was difficult, but I kept putting it in my cereal, down with the sugar, getting it in my system. And then my system began to crave. And now I love the flavor of it. You know, they say that alcohol is an acquired taste that I don't ever want to acquire because I cannot stand the flavor of alcohol. But raw milk and things that are good for you are an acquired taste, meaning you got to get it in you for your body to start like firing on all synapses that said, wait, we need more raw milk. Oh my gosh, go get that thing. And then even your taste buds start to go, no, we love it. We love it. Because our body is saying, we love it. We love it. So it's the same thing with Christianity for these people. It's like, no, we love it. We love it. We need it. We need more of this, because it is fulfilling that deep hole that we are designed by God to have, that we fit in like a lock and a key. It's beautiful. Okay. And so that's what makes me, it's, on the one hand, I'm very, very excited, but on the other hand, I'm sitting here going, how devoid of God are we? That people are that starved, because it has been sucked out of every area of your school, of your workplace, of your society, your entertainment, your online research, and so forth. And so I find it all very, very exciting. Before Leah finishes the show, I'll go ahead and do this so that she doesn't have to. Is that okay, Leah?
Yeah. Mother's Day sale.
So we are in the middle of our Mother's Day sale. We have launched 4 new products. So don't go anywhere, because Leah's going to finish the show, but I'm going to do this very quickly. We have launched 4 new products on the website that I'm like uber excited about. I know you guys can't tell at all, which is the Armor of God Beard and Face Oil, which is amazing. Men and women can use this. The all-star in it is the aloe vera. I love using it on my face. It feels amazing.
It smells just
like the Armor of God essential oil blend, which is testosterone supporting. I'm not making any huge, massive claims, but every single time that I open it on air and smell it, I dropped the cap. Now you're just gonna have to smell it because I dropped the cap. You need a men's cologne. You want testosterone support. You just want to smell good. Even women like this. I've given it to so many of you guys, and the women are like, no, I love it too. It just smells earthy and manly and woodsy, and I don't even know. It's just so good. I'll find the cap later. Oh, you found it. Look at you. And then we have the beard butter. Okay, so I was doing online research, and even my neighbor who won Best Beard in Cincinnati said, I love the oil and I use it, but that's really more for like under the beard in the face.
Yeah.
And so that's what I designed that the beard oil for. But he said for your actual beard, we like a butter. And so I used the same thing that I used for my face and body butter and developed the beard butter, which has a little bit less zinc oxide, which was like, it's like a sunblock and it does a lot of other things, so that you're not going to get like a white beard. And then last but not least, what I'm so excited about this, our Happiness lip balm. There's a B in there, Happiness. It rivals the other one that has a B in it, I believe. And we have 5 flavors. So we have the honey cinnamon right here in my hand, which is the Defense Blend, which uses the essential oil blend that goes into the grave robbers that were protected from the bubonic plague. Thieves that has rosemary, clove, cinnamon, I think lemon, and what's the other one that I'm missing? Mint? Did I say rosemary?
Mint.
No, there's one more in there. But that's what's in here. And then we do have our 5 flavors are mint, vanilla, cinnamon, which is the Defense Blend, orange. Why do I always forget one? Anyway, go to the website, shop.resistancechicks.com. Oh, look, Leah's sharing. You're so great. Shop.resistancechicks.com. I can't encourage you
so
enough.
So we have the actual, what we're calling it, men's cologne, but it's also a great testosterone booster. And then you have the beard oil and the conditioner that are sold as a set.
Well, you can
sell them
get it
as
individually as a set.
And then you've got the big set. So where are the big sets?
So if you want to go to the sets, go all the way up to the top and click on shop and go to all products. So all products will take you to all the different conglomerations that you can buy them at. So there's the Better Beard Duo of the 2, and then you got the whole set, which is the whole collection. And then you got the set of the 3 there. And then if you keep going down, then you get
But
to
this is the whole collection. And I recommend it because you got, if you want to, you got the tooth powder, you got the soap, you've got the deodorant, and then you've got all these products. And it's like super discount when you buy them. And right now with the Mother's Day sale,
you save 10%.
You're saving 10%.
Mom 10 is the promo code, or New Line. Either one will work.
Now here's the set for mom. If you want to get one for mom, and if you're, want to go ahead and do that, this is the Oil of Joy collection. Now this is a bunch of products, like a ton of products in one. I know. You've got the 2 salt, you got the deodorant, you've got the soap, you've got the body butter, and the healing for the soul. Like basically, the healing for the soul is $45. And then I think the body butter is like $35. So you're kind of getting a couple products free. So we want you guys to get our products. We enjoy making them. So we're so excited. And
if you want anything specialized or customized and you think I can do it, please just put it in when you check out. Just put it in the note section. You guys have been availing yourself of that, and I very much appreciate you doing that.
And there's 2 kinds of tooth polish. And you know what I found?
4 kinds of
Four kinds. 3 of them have the xylitol, which gives it like a sweetener to it. And it actually is antimicrobial. And the tooth polish actually has some coconut oil in it. And it kind of gives you more of a squeaky clean.
So don't get me confused. It's not like a 2-part. It's not like a powder and a polish. The polish, we just didn't want to call it a paste because it's not quite a paste. It's a crumbly. I have to be careful when I open this on air because I don't want it to go everywhere. But it's very crumbly looking. I don't know if you can see that, Leah.
Yeah.
Well, no, you can't see it.
Well, they can.
No, they can't. I don't know if they can see it because you're not on the screen. There we go.
Yeah, they can see it.
It's like a crumble, but it's really, really great. So it's essentially the best of the Rise and Shine tooth polish is the best of all of them, I think, rolled into one. So I highly recommend that one. So anyway, so our sale is going on now, and then of course our aromatherapy eye pillows are on sale. You buy 2 or more, you save $10 each. We wanted to do buy one, get one free, but it wasn't working out. So that's why we ended up doing it this way. And I've just added this new color, which you can't tell on the lighting because the lighting's weird. I haven't added it to the website, but it is a sky blue. And I've got a Kelly green, a panda, like red brocade, and a lavender that I'm going to be adding today to the website. But if you want to make your order before I get them up on the website, just put it in the note that those are the colors that you want. But Matt's been helping me box them up and get them ready to go. So we also have an event coming up. It's called the Mustard Seed Market, which will be June 6th through the 8th in Hillsboro, Ohio. If you want to come and join us, it'll be the first time that we've taken our products to a show, which I'm super excited about. So let me know if you want to know more about that. So Mom 10 and New Line are the promo codes that you want to use to save 10% until Tuesday night. The sale goes through Tuesday night, so please get your orders in before Tuesday night. and I will get them filled. I'm super excited. I think I have 3 that I need to fill for going out in the mail tomorrow. So anyway, I'm excited about it. And thank you guys so much for everybody that's already made orders. You make my day. I love you. You made me so happy. And thank you guys for all your prayers. And I'm going to head out of here and Leah's going to finish the awesome show.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to save some of these videos and you guys can keep sending me videos about revival around the world, because I feel like that is where we I want to put our emphasis on a lot of times with what we're facing in this world. The answers is Christianity. The answers is the power of God. The answer is God moving, right? Michelle, I've been leaving messages on Tommy Robinson on his PA's contacts about our legal system, Constitution, and the fact that they're based in Christianity. I think he may have listened finally.
Oh, that's awesome. So Barry was saying that we were frozen. I'm not on my phone though.
John 240750 says America, U.S. was born in Christian faith. Amen.
Don't forget to look at the comments while you're playing videos, just in case something happens.
Well, I'm going to be signing off here, so.
You are? Without me? Are you going to try and come with me?
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
Seems to me more like Christianity was adopted by Germanic tribes like Celts, who some of them brought back from Rome. Yeah. What I do know is both the intellectuals and the government decided to back Karl Marx, a bum who never held down a job and slept with the maid. That's absolutely true. That is so true. All right. So I just want to encourage you guys to get into your Bible, read the Word of God, because in that is the answers. He has the answers. When you look back at some of the great Christian minds, especially British minds, Christianity took a deep hold in England, in the UK, in Ireland, thanks to St. Patrick, as we covered in on St. Patrick's Day in March. And this deep hold, I mean, this beautiful Welsh revival, I think that's something that we really want to cover, is the Welsh revival and the change in the atmosphere and the change in how people interacted with one another. And we're going to be doing a contrasting series about fake revival. So please don't get me wrong when we start to talk about, you're going to see us, Matt has been kind of sharing with me some of the origins of the Pentecostal movement, the modern Pentecostal movement and its origins, and some Scottishmen, John Alexander Dowie, and a couple other guys. I'm doing my research right now, because it's kind of all led up to where I learned a lot from, which I went to Rainbow Bible Training Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I truly, truly believe in the gifts of the Holy Spirit. I believe in the baptism of the Holy Spirit. And I loved watching that video that we played last week about, people are just talking about speaking in tongues like it's not a big deal. And people are talking about even people getting slain in the Spirit like it's not a big deal, or kind of seeing some of the signs and wonders. But at the same time, those signs and wonders are easily counterfeited and used to make money off of people. What I think I'm seeing in the videos that we're playing today is a real heart change and individualism. I don't see a name. I don't see a name here. I don't see a name. Anybody see a name? Like, this person is leading a thing. That's how you know it's genuine. That's how you know it's God. That's how you just hear Christianity. You're just hearing Jesus. And we're not seeing any person in any of these videos just like really come to your mind. So when you hear a name, that's your tick in your box that something is not about Jesus. You hear the Welsh revival. Do you know any names from that? No, you just hear revival. But in American Pentecostalism that spread a lot of places, it's like Brahmanism, Dowieism, Word of Faith. They have a name. They have a name. It's a cult-like following. And where there is a true movement of God, you're going to have con artists, which are, what is the word con come from? It comes from the word confidence man. And they gain your confidence because Christians are known, or supposed to be known, to be honest, to be upright, to be forthcoming, to be loving, to be kind, to be self-sacrificing. And all of that leads to goodness and health and hope and healing. Because that's what Jesus came to do. Heal the fractured soul, heal society, right? Great show, girls, as always. Well done. When you say this, Nathwaith, Dada, Nathwaith. I forget how you guys are saying that. So I am going to sign off here. Guys, we have a show. I believe it's tomorrow. Michelle didn't tell. Michelle's not been advertising. I don't know. She just left me. Ralph Streen, I believe, is coming on tomorrow. Hopefully we don't lose all our viewers. Oh my gosh. We are going to be covering the con of Donald Trump. And I know you guys, I know that if we just stayed on that vein of trust the plan, guys, trust the plan, 5D chess, like, I'm tired of 5D chess. I don't think it's 5D chess anymore. I think we just played, and you know what? It's like I'm cutting my cards. I'm cutting and running, guys. I can't put any more money down on this. This is a con. I can see it's a con. And we're gonna talk about it tomorrow. I believe it's tomorrow on our Outliers show. So you're not going to want to miss it. Like, you might want to share this with your friends. Hopefully Michelle will get that together and get that out tonight so you guys can share that and be ready for that. I have to ask her if that's actually a thing. It's got to be a thing because I'm pretty sure he said that he was ready for the 12th. So let me just check my calendar here because I think he's on that. I think he's there. Let's check my Google calendars. Should be on my Google calendar just to make sure. We've got the Outliers, but I don't know if he sent anything over. I don't think it's the 19th. I think it's tomorrow. I think it is. So look for that. It's either tomorrow or the 19th, but I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow. So look for that Outliers show, and it's going to be great. We want you guys to share that out. So we love you. God loves you. God bless. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory. If Britain is actually experiencing a quiet revival, and I hope I've got a couple more videos I think we'll play next week on this too. This is a really wonderful reoccurring theme that I definitely want to keep going back to. So let me see here. She's got like 500 outros. So which one do I want? No, let's do that.
The long wait is over and it's finally open. The Resistance Chicks General Store. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. Sisters Leah and Michelle Svensson have been making their own home, health, and personal care products for well over a decade and are now bringing you everything you've been asking for, like the Oil of Joy Original Collection, deodorant for men and women, face and body soap, lavender oatmeal, homestead hands, face and body butter, Oil of Joy, soap products, and much, much more. These products are amazing and so good for your skin. We realize that many of our health issues can be traced back to the harmful chemicals and ingredients in most of the products on the shelves today. But even more than that, we believe that our Creator, God the Father, gave us everything for life and godliness, and He desires for us to work with our hands, to take joy in the gifts He has given us in this earth to enrich our daily lives. To learn more about all of these amazing products, visit shop.resistancechicks.com and place your order today before quantities are sold out. You deserve to treat yourself to the best spa day ever. You deserve the products from the Resistance Chicks Joy Collection, only at the Resistance Chicks General Store. Is any sick among you? Let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord, and the prayer of faith shall heal the sick.